This meeting of the Starkville Board of Aldermen will now come to order. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Alderman Vaughn would like to open us in a word of prayer, and we will observe a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our God, our Father, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Father God, again, here's a few your handmaid servants that you allowed your angels to watch over all day long. And now, Father God, you appointed us back to this appointed place to handle these affairs of this city. We ask you, Father God, that you will go deep in our heart, that every decision we make will glorify you. But we ask you that you will please forgive us of all our sins. And Father God, we thank you for what you allowed this mayor and this board all to achieve and accomplish during this period. Now we're going into a new revelation, and we just thank you so much for all the ones that you brought back to handle these affairs of the city. We thank you so much. We glorify you, we magnify your holy name, God, because of who you are and why you are. And Father God, we know we can't do nothing in this world without you. Father, we can't even move. We can't even think without you. But we thank you for giving us a thinking cap, that we will be able to do the things that you want us to do. And Father God, we praise you, we honor you, we glorify you, we magnify your holy name because of who you are and why you are. We thank you for being our God and we're your servants. We thank you for being our Father and we are the children. But most of all, we thank you for controlling our destiny, not leaving us in the hand of no man. Now I ask you, Father, that you will fill this place with your Holy Spirit, that we will all conduct ourselves in a Christ-like way. And then when the end of the day, we will give you praise and honor and glory for you sitting in with us and directing us to do the things that you want us to do in the way you want us to do them. Father, in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
All right, you have 6 members present in person. Alderman Wynn is joining us on the phone. Alderman Wynn, are you with us?
I am.
All right. And just a housekeeping note before we begin, since we have a member attending telephonically tonight, the law requires us to take all votes by roll call. So even the most simple of matters as it may appear, if you wonder why we're taking a roll call vote, we're trying to comply with the law. At this time, you have the written agenda before you. Are there any proposed changes to the agenda as written?
Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to pull the minutes of May 2nd from consideration on this agenda.
Proposed revision is to eliminate the item Roman numeral 4, the minutes from May 2nd, 2017. Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that item's been removed from the agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have any further proposed revisions?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to move or request to move item 11B 2D, discussion of the comprehensive plan, to mayor's business item A in reorder.
All right, proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to reorder the agenda, moving what was originally placed as item 11B2D, discussing consideration of the reconsideration of the Starkville Comprehensive Plan, to item 9A under mayor's business. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, please note the change. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir. I'd like to move item 11B2A, the discussion of variance relief of the cell tower, to mayor's business B, and reorder the agenda from there.
Proposed revision from Alderman Maynard is to reorder the agenda, moving what was originally item 11B2A, the discussion and consideration of an appeal of the recommendation for denial by the Board of Adjustments and Appeals of VA 17-10 to item 9B, mayor's business. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I'd like to put under mayor's business what was originally item C, which is now item E, on consent.
Proposed revision by Alderman Maynard is to place original item 9C, now item 9E, the consideration of approving a phase site plan for the new Starkville Police Department as presented onto the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection?
Mr. Mayor, when they put them on consent, read them out, please.
Okay, I will. Was my reading of that item sufficient?
I want you to read them out when you put them on consent.
All right. Is there any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that item's been placed on the consent agenda, and Alderman Maynard, I am taking it as implied that you wish to add a consent agenda to the agenda as Roman numeral 4.
Yes, sir.
Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Put on consent under board business, items B, C, D, E, and F. And under item F, include with the closing of streets as marked on the presented map.
All right, the proposed revision by Alderman Maynard is to place items B, C, D, E, and F under Roman numeral 10, board business, on the consent agenda. Those items are as follows. Discussion and consideration of the approval of the mayor-elect and any alderman wishing to travel to Biloxi, Mississippi to attend the Mississippi Municipal League's a summer conference from July 23rd, 2017 through July 26th, 2017, with advance payment for the conference reservations, accommodations, and advance travel, with Vice Mayor Perkins not planning to attend as presented. Discussion and consideration of authorization to spend $6,259.51 for custom signage for the Highway 12 improvement project, with funds coming from the Highway 12 Landscaping Fund. Consideration of the authorization of the city engineer to develop a multi-year road plan to be presented at a future meeting or work session of the mayor and board of aldermen as presented. Discussion and consideration of the reappointment of H.W. Bill Webb Jr. to the Board of Adjustment and Appeals to represent Ward 6, with a term set to end June 30th, 2021 as presented. Consideration of a special event request by the City of Starkville to hold the mayoral inauguration event with city participation with in-kind services, with closing of streets as marked on the presented map, otherwise as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I have one question. City engineer, and I don't see you out there. Do you think you could have that multi-year road plan ready to go by August 3rd? Okay. Mayor, can we add that date on D, that it be presented by August 3rd?
All right, so those items are proposed for consent agenda as previously read, with the exception of item 10D. It will be as previously read, with the addition by August 3rd, 2017. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir. Under department business planning, items C and E on consent.
The proposed revision by Alderman Maynard is to place items C and E under planning on the consent agenda. Those items are as follows. A discussion and consideration of FP 17-05, a request for final plat approval or subdividing 1.5 acre parcel into 7 lots located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Old West Point Road and Rose Perkins Evans Drive in B1 zone with the parcel number 117C-00-038.00 as presented. The discussion and consideration of travel for Buddy Sanders to attend the Mississippi Municipal League Conference in Biloxi, Mississippi. As a city representative, outreach chair for the American Planning Association Mississippi chapter, and educator with the Mississippi Planning Institute as presented. Alderman Manners, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection?
Mayor, I just have a question on that one. On E, what exactly are we going to be doing down there, Mr. Sanders?
I will be manning the booth for the American Planning Association Mississippi chapter, and I will be assisting Dr. Joseph Stacey, and also City Planner Pastor with Mississippi Planning Institute on Wednesday after the conference.
Thank you.
Are there any objections? Any objections? Any objections? Any objections? Seeing none, those matters have been added to the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir. Under finance, items 2 and 3 on consent.
The proposed revision by Alderman Maynard is to add items 11E, 2, and 3 to the consent agenda. Those items are as follows. Request for approval of the May 2017 financial statement as presented and the consideration of travel for City Clerk CFO Lisa Harden to attend the Mississippi Municipal League Conference in Biloxi, Mississippi, if master municipal clerk classes are offered for the city clerks with a cost not to exceed $770 as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, those matters have been added to the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have any further proposed revisions?
Under airport, item 1.
All right, the proposed revision by Alderman Maynard is to add item 11A1 to the consent agenda. That is a request for approval of the acceptance of the engineering proposal from Clearwater Consultants Incorporated to perform professional engineering services at George M. Bryan Airfield in Starkville, Mississippi, as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been added to the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have further proposed revisions?
And from F, Fire Department, through the end of the agenda, every item except item 7 under personnel to consent.
Right. The proposed revision by Alderman Maynard is to add the remainder of the agenda following item 11, or including and following item 11F1 to the consent agenda. Those items are as follows. A request for permission to purchase firefighter turnout gear from NAFCO at a cost of $8,436 at state contract price to be paid from the State Fire Rebate Fund as presented. Request for permission to allow the Starkville Fire Department to host a Citizen Fire Academy starting July 6, 2017, with the Academy to meet one night a week for a total of 4 weeks as presented. A request for permission to purchase a drive trailer from Steering Trailer Sales at a cost of $24,893.78. The lowest and best of 2 quotes received as presented. The approval of a professional services agreement with Garner Computers as presented. The approval of the Meet Me at the Park grant, which will require a dollar-to-dollar match of up to $50,000 as presented. The authorization to hire Thomas C. Ware as Chief Wastewater Operator in the Wastewater Division as presented. The permission to advertise for a lineman in the Starkville Electric Department as presented. The permission to advertise for 3 certified police officers in the Starkville Police Department as presented. The permission to hire Angelica Colbert, Christopher English, and David Fair, James Smith, and Paul Wood as police officers in the Starkville Police Department as presented. Authorization to allow Bill Green to work part-time in his current position as the office manager of the Community Development Department until August 31st, 2017 as presented. The approval for the temporary pay increases per the personnel policy for the following fire department employees: Andy Sharp, who is assigned to the temporary position of acting battalion chief; Roosevelt Harris, who is assigned to the temporary position of acting captain; Sam Wilkes, who is assigned to the temporary position of acting lieutenant as presented. The authorization to remove Gretchen Passons, Tammy Carlisle, and Dylan Carges from the Keep Starkville Beautiful Committee with approval to advertise to fill the vacancies as presented. The authorization to accept the lowest and best of 2 evaluated proposals submitted by Buddy Ayers Construction and enter into an agreement for construction of a bridge to the Starkville Utilities Trim Cam Pump Station at a cost of $141,788.94 as presented. Request for Starkville Utilities to insert the drinking water annual consumer confidence report into the June utility bills as presented. The approval to authorize Wren Body Works of Oklahoma, Mississippi to perform 5-year inspection and maintenance on bucket truck number 37 at a cost of $20,259.31 as presented. All of those items are proposed for the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Alderman Walker.
No objection, just a question. Under the parks, the request to meet me at the park grant, first of all, I think that's a great opportunity to apply for that grant. The only question that I had is when we're successful in getting that grant, the $50,000 match, is that going to be coming out of your normal line item budget, or is that going to come out of the 2% budget, the 2% money? Thank you.
Is there any objection? Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Alderman. Any objection? Seeing no objection, those matters have been added to the consent agenda. Alderman Maynard, do you have any further proposed revisions?
No, sir, Mayor.
Are there any further proposed revisions by the members of the board? Alderman Little.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
I've got Alderman Little first, and then I'll recognize Alderman Nguyen.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, under board business, I'd like to add item H. As you see, we've got the public hearing on the billboards tonight, but there's not a corresponding item, but I would like to kind of tweak that to include discussion and consideration of continuing the billboard moratorium. Item H.
The proposed revision by Alderman Little is to add item H under Roman numeral 10, board business, a discussion and consideration of extending the billboard moratorium. Alderman Little, is that your proposed revision?
It is.
Do I hear any objection? Alderman Carver, is that an objection?
What's the time frame?
He
Is it
did
a
not
year or-
include that in the agenda item, but this is an item that's been added to the open agenda.
Discuss it later.
Is there any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that item's been added to the agenda. Alderman Little, do you have any further proposed?
I do not.
Alderman Nguyen.
Item 10, A under board business, page 3. To that sentence, after the word sidewalks, add and landscape, period.
Alderman Nguyen has proposed revising the agenda to add the words "and landscape" to the end of Roman numeral 10A. That is the discussion and consideration of addressing a request from the Oktibbeha County Board of Supervisors and OCEDA President, Mr. Jack Wallace, regarding modifying the ordinance regulations for sidewalks. It would now read "for sidewalks and landscape." Alderman Nguyen, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, please note the change. Alderman Nguyen, do you have any further proposed revisions?
No, I do not.
Are there any further proposed revisions to the agenda by the members of the board? Any further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as revised is in order.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, please respond by saying yea, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name in response to the motion.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, the motion passes. I typically take the consent agenda without objection, but since the law requires a roll call vote, and particularly since this is the end of a term, you'll have a new board approving minutes. I want to make sure this is absolutely clean. So I'm going to take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of the consent agenda as revised. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Saying none, please respond by saying yea, nay, or abstain in response to the motion as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, the motion passes. The first matter before you is announcements and comments by the mayor and members of the board. And my first announcement is to introduce our new employees. First employee I'd like to introduce is Mr. Jerry Logan. Mr. Logan is our new Sports and Recreation Director for Starkville Parks and Recreation. He was born in Tupelo, Mississippi and raised in Pontotoc. He is joining the Starkville Parks and Recreation Department after spending 4 years in College Station, Texas, where he worked as an athletic supervisor and as a special events coordinator. While at College Station, Jerry oversaw hundreds of events and assisted in developing programs and other special projects. Previously, Jerry worked as a sports coordinator in Clinton, Mississippi, where he supervised and assisted many departmental programs and events. Jerry is a 2010 graduate from the University of Mississippi with a degree in Parks and Recreation Management. He recently completed his master's degree in Recreation, Parks, and Tourism Sciences and Certificate of Nonprofit Management from Texas A&M University. He is one of less than 200 individuals in the country that holds his Certified Parks and Recreation Executive Certification from the National Recreation and Park Association, and he is the current chair-elect of the National Recreation and Park Association Young Professional Network. Jerry is married and has a 2-year-old son. He's very happy to be back in Mississippi, living closer to family, and excited about his new journey. Please join me in welcoming Jerry. Next, I'd like to introduce David Wise. David is a new accountant for Starkville Utilities Department. He is originally from Pontotoc, Mississippi, and graduated from South Pontotoc High School as salutatorian. After 2 years at Itawamba Community College, David graduated magna cum laude from Mississippi State University with a bachelor's degree in accountancy in 2011. He received a master's degree in public accountancy in 2012. David spent the last 5 years working as a senior accountant with Watkins Wharton Stafford PLLC in the Oklahoma office and has been a certified public accountant since 2013. David enjoys sports, playing golf and tennis, and serving others through church ministry. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Wise. Next, I'd like to introduce Jaquita Bolden. Miss Bolden is a new radio operator records clerk for the Starkville Police Department. She is originally from Meridian, Mississippi, and a graduate of Meridian High School. Prior to coming to the city of Starkville, Jaquita was employed with Toyota. She earned her associate's degree from Meridian Community College and is currently pursuing a bachelor's degree from Mississippi State University, where she is majoring in business administration. Jaquita is married and is the proud parent of a son, Latrell Green. Please join me in welcoming Miss Bolden. Next, I'd like to introduce Tanya Mullen. Is it Tanya or Tanya? Tanya Mullen is from, she is a new radio operator records clerk in the Starkville Police Department, and she's from Grenada, Mississippi, and graduated from Grenada High School. Tanya was the office manager of for the tax office of Jackson Hewitt in Starkville. She is a graduate of the University of Mississippi with a bachelor's in biological sciences. Tanya is the proud parent of a son, Isaiah Smith. Please join me in welcoming Tanya. Next, I'd like to introduce Erica Ratliff, also a radio operator records clerk for the Starkville Police Department. She is from Starkville and is a graduate of Starkville High School. She worked in human resources for the Army Reserve and was also a sales associate for Walmart before joining the Starkville Police Department. She is attending East Mississippi Community College, where she is studying criminal justice. Erica is a certified black belt in Taekwondo. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Ratliff. Ms. Ratliff, interestingly enough, my wife is also a certified black belt in Taekwondo, so I have something to tell her when I go home. Next, I'd like to introduce Nathan Godan. Mr. Godan is a new fire department for the Starkville Fire Department. He is originally from Starkville and the son of Starkville firefighter David Godan. Growing up, Nathan considered many careers, ranging from becoming a lawyer to being a wildlife biologist. After high school graduation, he was interested in becoming an FBI agent and decided to major in criminal justice at EMCC. He then transferred to MSU to complete a bachelor's degree of criminology. During his time at MSU, Nathan realized his interest was not only in catching criminals, but in helping people in general, and took an interest in other service fields. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Godan. Our next newest firefighter is Hunter McBride. He is originally from Caledonia, Mississippi, and he graduated from Caledonia High School and continued his education at East Mississippi Community College. After his first year of college, he decided that college was not the path for him and joined the Mississippi Army National Guard as a combat medic. After graduating from military training and returning home, Hunter became an EMT with MedStat EMS. Hunter has always wanted to be a firefighter and has been around the fire service most of his life because his dad is also a firefighter. Upon turning 21, Hunter was able to reach his goal of becoming a firefighter. Please join me in welcoming Hunter. And finally, I'd like to introduce another firefighter, Julio McKinney. Julio is originally from Horn Lake, Mississippi. Before joining the Starkville Fire Department, Julio served the United States military as an airborne infantryman. While serving in the military, Julio completed the Special Forces selection assessment process and was selected for a reconnaissance team for his unit. He also hiked Crow's Pass, a 26-mile hike in just over 8 hours. Julio has always had a passion for helping others and believes this passion is what led him to become a firefighter. Please join me in welcoming Mr. McKinney. It is my pleasure at this time to, first of all, ask Mr. Peters, Mr. Logan, anybody else from Parks and Recreation to please stand. And y'all please join me in giving them a round of applause for the City of Starkville being named as now a 7-time recipient of the Playful City USA designation. The Playful City USA designation is one of the top recognitions that a local Parks and Rec program can receive in the United States of America. There are very few, particularly around the Southeast, that have been recognized as many as 7 times. Mr. Peters and his staff work very hard through an application process that is rigorous, and it ties from one year to the next. So Mr. Peters, quite an accomplishment. I have one more comment to make, and that is I would be remiss if I did not recognize that this is going to be my last time to sit up here and chair a meeting. And that is, quite honestly, a very emotional experience. And as I am getting ready to go, I am doing those things that one does when they're getting ready to go. I'm going through old files. And one of the things I came across the other day were the notes from the speech I made when we were all sworn into office 4 years ago. And I doubt anybody remembers that but me. But that's why we have notes. And one of the things I talked about that day was I analogized the journey that we were about to go on to one of the great sea voyages of the sea exploration period. I loved studying that when I was a child, and I still marvel at what it must have been like for those sea voyagers to set off unknown. And there is a particular passage that I had in my notes that I would like to read to you from that, the first day that we all gathered together as a city administration. I said at that point in time, the journey that we were about to begin was not unlike one of those great sea voyages. The future of Starkville over the next 4 years is as wide and as undetermined as an uncharted ocean. And indeed, it was that day. But now, some 95 regular and recess meetings of the Board of Aldermen later, that journey is no longer a mission. We have charted our course. And there were certainly times along the way I wondered whether we were going to make it to the other side all in one piece or not. And I think that is normal for doing something as difficult as city government. But we have made it to the other side. And we've made it to the other side, and we find ourselves once again standing at that water's edge, but this time, I believe, on better ground than we were that day. Among other things, we have had the opportunity during this term to open a city hall, open a conference center, and before this term is over, we will open a new police headquarters. And we are in the midst of a period of unprecedented economic expansion in this community with no end in sight. So, as we get ready to turn the ship of state in this city over to a new group, and you all get ready for your next voyage, I can confidently say to Mayor-elect Spruill and the new members of the Board of Aldermen that I do believe our best days as a city are still yet to come. And I look forward to returning to private life and watching and hopefully being a constructive force as a citizen, participating in that process. But for tonight, to each of you, members of the board and the department heads that have shared this experience each and every Tuesday night, twice a month for the last 4 years, I can honestly say it has been nothing but an absolute pleasure. And one of the great things about it from a personal standpoint to me is I feel like I've made such wonderful and deep friendships with all of you. And I hope that is something I will carry with me for all the days that I live. So thank you all so much for everything you've done for this city and for everything you've done for me. And that will conclude my comments. Are there any further comments? Any further comments? Alderman Little.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to thank you for your loyal and dedicated service over the last 8 years to the city of Starkville. I know each and every citizen appreciates your dedication. I enjoyed working with you. We may not always been on the same side of the fence, but we always were able to shake hands after we left and cordial along the way. I'd also like to say thank you to both Alderman Nguyen, my colleagues, and Alderman Maynard at the other end of the table for their dedicated and loyal service, and wish them both the best in their future endeavors as they lead.
Thank you so much, Alderman Little.
Thank you.
Any further comments? Alderman Maynard, then Alderman Vaughn.
Mayor, I understand your bittersweet sentiment. It is interesting sitting up here for the final time, but I want to thank the residents of Ward 5 for allowing me to serve them over the last 4 years. I think we've gotten a tremendous amount accomplished. 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, the big buzzword around was sidewalks to nowhere. Quietly, this board has constantly addressed that issue. And with one small section on Jackson Street left, you will now be able to walk from the corner of Garrett Road and Old West Point Road, which is almost the northern and eastern part of the city limits, all the way to Green Oaks subdivision and stay on the sidewalk the whole time. As soon as our grant is complete in what is currently Ward 2, Alderman Nguyen's ward, you'll be able to walk from the northernmost point in Starkville, Garrett Road and Old West Point Road, all the way to Emerson School, which is almost the southernmost point in the city limits. So the sidewalks to nowhere, Mayor, now go somewhere. So I also want to say a compliment for the new business and new construction that has taken place all over our community. Particularly, I want to thank Parker McGill for bringing a car dealership inside the city limits. When we moved here in 1971, there was Slaughter Chevrolet, Templeton's, Millsaps, and most of you probably remember all those three, but there was also Dodge City, which was another one that was in town. And over time, all of those had closed down or moved away, and so I'm happy that we've got a car dealership back inside the city limits. 4 years ago, and a little less than a week from then, we were all a new board. Alderman Vaughn and I were at MML down in Biloxi and had a great conversation about what we wanted to accomplish as a board, he and I. One of the things that we kept coming back to was employment opportunities for citizens of every education level. And again, that's something that we've worked really hard to try to bring to fruition. I think with the industrial park coming on board, North Starkville, that can really happen. That provides opportunities for citizens at all education levels, opportunities to have meaningful employment within our city. And with the adoption of the new comprehensive plan again tonight, I think that will go forward. We also have, through this board, a comprehensive plan for Parks and Rec, which I think they are dutifully implementing slowly but surely as resources allow. Again, something that was vitally needed, and look forward to watching that take place and develop as well, because that's just a new opportunities for growth for our city in many areas there. So Mayor, thank you for your service. I've enjoyed serving with you and every member of this board. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
First of all, I'd like to thank our God and our Father and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for allowing you to be the captain of this ship. The ship had a good captain, although we had a lot of bumps and bruises, but at the end of the day, we kept moving. At the end of the day, we always find ways to put everything back together and look forward in the direction that the Lord wants us to go. I thank you for the many times that you and I sit along and talked after board meetings when things didn't go our way, things I didn't understand, things I felt like should have went another way. I didn't get behind your back. I came to your office and sit down and talk to you about it. I thank you for accepting me to do that. But most of all, I just thank God for what He allowed this married boat to achieve. I've been with you 8 years, so we achieved a lot of things in 8 years, and I just thank God for keeping us together these 8 years and keeping our focus. Even though we had a lot of things and a lot of things could have turned us another way, but we kept our focus. We kept our eye on the sparrow. The sparrow was keeping our eye on Jesus, and then we know that He will take us to the destination we need to be. And you did that, and I thank you so much that Alderman, you stuck to your word. The 4 years that you promised that we'll do this, we got there, and I thank you so much. And I would lie I'd be lying if I say I won't miss you guys. It hurt bad to see y'all walk away, but I know you got better things to do. Besides, to go through this, it's not easy to go through this because I tell you, be some decision made, make you go home and cry. But as long as you keep God on your side, you can go home and go to sleep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Alderman. But last but least, I would like to thank the citizens of Ward 7 not coming to poll one time, but they came 2 times to re-elect me for the 3rd term to be the leader for the city, for this city, and most of all, the citizens in Ward 7. Thank you all.
Any further comments?
Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
I want to say, Mayor, to the members of the board, it has been an honor and a privilege to serve with you all. To the residents of Ward 2, in 2013, you all made it possible for me to represent you all in our city. I say thank you for your kindness that you've given me over the last 4 years. And 2 weeks ago, the phone calls to my phone at home and my cell and the text messages were just endless. I say thank you from the bottom of my heart for the support that you've shown me over the years. I could not have done it without you. There have been plenty of times that I've left the board meeting, and the only comforter that I knew to call on, because it had been so stressful, was God. It was God who gave me grace and strength to continue to represent my city and the residents of Ward 2. For that, I'm so grateful to have been a public servant here. It has allowed me to meet people throughout the state of Mississippi who rallied to me after the loss of my election. I'm so thankful to them. It put me in a position to go on and become a lobbyist for a firm that I'll soon be working for. I say thank you for this impossible journey that the residents of Ward 2 gave me. May I yield the floor?
Are there any further comments?
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Is this mic on, Mr. Green? I guess it is, but I think I can be heard. Mr. Mayor, but let me say this very briefly. I want to thank the gentleman from Ward 5 and the lady from Ward 2 for their dedicated service for this term, and I want to pray that you will be successful in all of your endeavors. And at this time, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to have additional comments, but I'm going to yield the floor to the Honorable Director of the Information Technology Department, Mr. Joel Clements, and he's going to make the remainder of my comments.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
You're welcome, Alderman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Vice Mayor has recorded a video presentation. He recorded this on May 8th, 2017.
Mayor Wiseman and I have been serving together since 2009. He is the 4th mayor that I have served with. Mayor Wiseman is in his 2nd term. During my tenure as an alderman for the city of Starkville, Mayor Wiseman is the 2nd mayor who has served for 2 terms. The first mayor during my tenure who has served for 2 terms was Mayor Mac Rutledge. Mayor Rutledge served from 1997 to 2005. The first mayor I served with was Mayor Jesse Greer. He served from 1993 to 1997. Mayor Rutledge served from 1997 to 01. In 2001, 2005, then came our third mayor, Mayor Dan Camp, who served for 1 term from 2005 to 2009. Mayor Wiseman has been served from 2009 until the present. I have really enjoyed working with Mayor Wiseman. He is the youngest of the 4 mayors who have served during my tenure. He has been one who has brought forth a lot of youthfulness, energy, and enthusiasm. He takes his job very seriously. He, in his role as mayor, presides over the meetings of the mayor and Alderman. It is very rare for him to miss a meeting. He likes to be present. He likes to be involved. He has performed many mayoral functions, including but not limited to attending a number of city events. He has issued countless proclamations and resolutions. He made a lot of appearances throughout our entire city of Starkville. He certainly has maintained and stayed abreast of all news, events, and matters involving the city of Starkville. He has maintained a very regular and ongoing appearance in the newspaper. He's also received substantial coverage on matters and things involving the city. Mayor Wiseman has certainly performed a lot of executive functions, including but not limited to issuing a few mayoral vetoes. He has vetoed some very important matters and things, has felt very strongly about a number of things. During his first term, he had the occasion to have the service of one of our former chief administrative officers. The city began using a chief administrative officer back at the 2005 term, and he had the luxury and the privilege to have a chief administrative officer briefly for this term. So I was yet surprised when he announced that he would not be seeking re-election for a 3rd term. It will be different, of course, without him being here. It leaves a lot of wonder as to where we will be headed to and who will be the next chief executive officer for the city of Stark. And that's a very important role. I certainly prefer having someone that I'm used to as opposed to someone that I'm not used to. This is my 6th term that I'm completing, and I'll be proceeding to a 7th term without opposition. I'm the longest serving member ever of the Board of Aldermen, and I will miss him being around the city. We talk very often, given my role as the vice mayor and the senior member, and we show a lot of respect and professionalism, and that's been our relationship. And there have been some non-agreement on issues, but at the same time, we're always professional about it. And that's the way it should be done. That's the way that the elected officials should do it in order to promote the overall best interests of the city. So, given everything that I said, I wish Mayor Wiseman great success in with his future endeavors. I am certain that he will be very successful with whatever his pursuits are. He's a young man, less than 40, has a lot of life left, in my opinion, and he has a lot of things yet to do as he moves forward. He has a great career. He has, in my opinion, obtained a vast amount of experiences in administrative law and administrative process here with the city of Starkville. So he will possess and does possess a lot of experiences. And even if he goes to the practice of law, a lot of lawyers, in my opinion, do not have that administrative background. That's what I had before I came here, and worked with the legislature, with the Attorney General in Washington on Capitol Hill with former Congressman David Bowen. So through it all, Mayor Wiseman has left his mark in a very distinctive and distinguished way. He has made his way into our history books, and his legacy will be that he gave the best of service, and he gave the best that he could. So, working with a 7-member board with diverse interests and diverse backgrounds is not an easy job. And so there have been challenges that he has faced, and those challenges certainly have equipped and prepared him to deal with tomorrow. So again, in conclusion here, I have enjoyed my working with him. I have enjoyed our association with him, and I encourage him to continue to stay in touch with the Vice Mayor. I'm only just a phone call away, and I wish him the best of success, and I think he'll give and do his very best to whatever he encounters in the future. So I want to wish him and his children, I think there are 3 now, I believe, and his wife and himself the best of success in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Mr. Clemens, thank you for your hard work on that. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And you can give the mayor that copy so he can have it for his archive.
I'll do that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Alderman Walker.
Just wanted to say, Mayor, it's been a pleasure serving on the board with you. Coming in as a first-term alderman, it's been good, steady leadership throughout. So thank you and for all your hard work and your dedication and where Starkville's come the last 8 years. Your leadership meant a lot to make that happen. So thank you. To Alderman Maynard, representing the budget chair, thank you very much for all your diligent hard work over the past 4 years. We've had to make some really tough decisions, and a lot of that is always driven by the budget. So I appreciate all the hard work and effort. And Alderman Nguyen, best of luck in your future endeavors. And now,
Thank you so much, Alderman Walker.
turning from that, I just want to remind everybody that the City of Starkville Parks and Recreation Department has a July 4th celebration coming up, big fireworks show. Mr. Peters, to announce the time of things or when that's happening?
This year with Gary coming in, he's basically going to be over it. One of our main things that we want to try this year is have a litter-free event. We have our first litter-free event. We just got to keep Starkville beautiful, and it's going to be a litter-free event. We're going to have plenty of bags out for everybody. It starts at 4, 5 o'clock. It's going to start at 5. We have jumpers for the kids, free water. There'll be local bands this year. We have a lot of local bands coming in. First year using vendors, but our main objective is a litter-free 4th of July event.
And the last reminder, just June 25th, it will be the second Sunday Fun Day held in the Cotton District on the Rue des Grands Fromage, hosted by the Greater Good Collective. They had the first one last month. It's local artists, vendors. There'll be music. There'll be food. It's a free event. It's a good Sunday afternoon, so I encourage everybody to come out and see local art and take part in a great event. Sunday Fun Day, June the 25th.
Any further comments? Alderman Carl.
I guess I've got to say something. I'll say to Alderman Maynard, I think the city attorney said it best at a dinner one time. He said that you were the best deal-making alderman that he had ever seen, so I think that describes you adequately. To Alderman Nguyen, I guess she served in a great capacity in economic development and served well as a voice for the city, and then has done an excellent job of communicating things between ourselves and the mayor. To Mayor Wiseman, I guess to say that your professionalism is what has probably stood out to me the most over the last 8 years. Oftentimes we go to conferences and go out and do city business, and I get asked, what's the greatest challenge for the city of Starkville? And I probably could say that our growth is the greatest challenge. And in the way that you conduct meetings, it's in a code charter form of government. It's sometimes called a weak mayor form of government. It's a pretty hard, probably one of the hardest forms of government to steer, and he's done an excellent job steering both the ins and outs of the daily operations here at City Hall and then also these board meetings. So again, just to congratulate all three of y'all for the job that you've done. So, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Carver.
Any further comments? Any further comments? Well, goodness, y'all were all so nice. If I wasn't emotional before, I'm really emotional now, and we haven't even gotten to the meat of the agenda yet. Thank y'all very much for everything. All right. We'll now move to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Greeting to the mayor and board of aldermen. My name is Davin Turner, Ward 7. I'd like to recognize Vice Mayor Perkins, Alderman Vaughn, Alderman Walker.
Thank you, Alderman.
My last uncle, he's in the hospital, John Jordan Sr. He's my mother's last brother. He's 83 years old, so I'd like for your prayers for the Jordan family. And also Turner family, it'll be a year, 4th of July, that the baby brother was shot. And the Turner family needs your prayers to get through the 4th of July. Citizens have a few things that they would like to bring to your attention, and it is the Gliss Street second red light. We still have speeding, and they have a hole that's in the street as well, and they want me to bring that to your attention. The same thing is on Long Street. Is speeding. Children are out now, and no one wants to get hit if it's in a way possible. And citizens, they're getting kind of warm about the mayor situation, and they wish that it would just decease, because we don't want no one to get the idea that they could do the same thing here that someone did in Washington with a rifle. So we like for it to be peaceful and do the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Are there any further citizen comments?
I'd like to solicit your support in providing some city labor to help put down a culvert in the parking lot of First Baptist Church. The church wants I'm told that you have the equipment, the labor, the know-how, and everything to put down a culvert. The church expects to fix the ends of the culvert and to fill it with dirt and improve it. So it's a partnership deal that we're asking. I'm told by the city engineer that it would take about half of the repair crew for about 2 weeks to put this down. The church would pay for the culvert, the supplies. We're just talking about your labor. This is a private property, and it's very antsy for anybody in your position to be putting city labor on private property. But I submit to you, it's not private property for private use. This property is for public use. Because we have a lot of events on Main Street, the Christmas parade and many others, and these are much more successful because of all that parking back there than they would otherwise be. It is a public use area, although it's privately owned. And it does not set a precedent for the city to be improving on private property for private use. We have a precedent already. If you go through the years of things that have happened, we've had city involvement on private property if it's public use. So this is public use. That makes it different from using city labor on other private property that's for private use. This is listed in the mayor's suggestions. It's on your agenda. And I would just like to solicit your support for a few, not the whole team, of your crew to come out and provide labor and the equipment necessary to lay that culvert in that deep and dangerous, somebody's gonna drive into that ditch. We park on both sides of it. It's dangerous, and especially at night in the dark. And so we would just like your support to permit the labor to come out there and just lay that culvert in that ditch.
Thank you, Dr. Harris.
Hi, good evening. I'm Susan Bell Morris. I'm a native of Starkville and a property owner here. I have a short prepared statement I'd like to pass out a
Is this
copy.
related to the comprehensive plan?
It is.
We will have a public hearing on that matter.
Tonight?
Yes.
So you'll ask for public comment at that
I will.
time? Okay, thank you.
Are there any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Seeing none, we'll move to public appearances. The first public appearance is from Volunteer Starkville by Jamie Bachman, the Executive Director. And Ms. Bachman, you will have a maximum of 10 minutes to make your presentation.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Board of Aldermen. Thank you for the opportunity just to come and present an update on the successes of the first 6 months of our fiscal year 2017. I'll just be briefly going over our annual days of service and our training programs that we have for volunteers and nonprofits in terms of the numbers served. Our fiscal year runs November to October. So we started fiscal year 2017 in November 2016. And we kicked off with our day of service for Family Volunteer Day, about bringing families together and celebrating through service. We do an annual sweet potato drop with a partnership with Society of St. Andrews, where 133 volunteers bagged 24,000 pounds of sweet potatoes that were distributed to 15 different food pantries to provide additional food during the holidays to those in need within the Golden Triangle region. We do an annual Christmas greeting card project with our local Ward Stewart Elementary School, engaging youth to create handmade Christmas cards for local elderly in our nursing homes and assisted living centers. 298 volunteers participated in that project. Kicking off the new year in 2017 with the Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. We work with lots of different partnering organizations to pull together all of these events, including the MSU Maroon Volunteer Center and the NAACP of Oktibbeha County. We partnered together for a Night of Unity event that Sunday evening leading into MLK Day on Monday, where we had 566 volunteers total among all of our events. 545 of those were engaged in 16 different service project sites on Monday, in addition to our community volunteer fair and our New Mom Supply Drive, leading after the Unity Day celebrated by MSU. So those are just some pictures from our events and total served. With National Volunteer Week in April, we do a lot with this day of service, including our Operation Gratitude campaign, our annual Volunteer Awards Banquet, the Give Award nominations, and our Global Youth Service Day program. With our Operation Gratitude program, we worked with 21 local schools and community organizations within Oktibbeha, Clay, and Winston counties, engaging 2,803 volunteers and creating 2,803 appreciation letters and patriotic artwork pieces that were shipped to Operation Gratitude to be included in care packages for deployed soldiers. Into the Give Awards, which is the Governor's Initiative for Volunteer Excellence, awarded by Volunteer Mississippi. Overall in the state, there were 70 nominations, 11 of which came from our service area, 3 of which that Volunteer Starkville made, and 14 Give Awards were awarded, in addition to 8 honorable mentions. From Starkville and Oktibbeha County alone, we had 5 award recipients. Allison Bueller received Outstanding Achievement in Sustainable Community Solutions, Casserole Kitchen, Outstanding Faith-Based Collaboration Initiative, Mr. Paul Quickie, Outstanding Servant Leadership, and Dr. Linda McGrath and the Controller's Generation 4-H Club received honorable mentions. Our Global Youth Service Day Service and Leadership Program. This is a program that I started 2 years ago. We wrapped up our second year engaging 79 high school students from Oktibbeha County through the 3 different high schools we have, in addition to the Golden Triangle Early College High School, working with them in a 5-month program beginning in December and culminating in April. We met with them monthly to where they were listening to different guest speakers on different topics, from public speaking to social media smarts, followed by planning sessions for their Global Youth Service Day program. And those projects, they organized 3 different service projects among the 79 students, which benefited the Starkville Salvation Army and the EMCC campus. So those students went through this 5-month program, and in addition to learning things that were valuable to them preparing for college, they also got some planning skills out of it and learned what it's like to identify a community need and the steps you need to take to address it through a service project. So we're excited for the growth of that project. Last year we had about 20 students and we grew to 79. Those are just some pictures from their service projects on Global Youth Service Day and some of the trainings that we had each month. We also have our annual Volunteer Awards Banquet in April. This is the 7th year we've partnered with the Maroon Volunteer Center in hosting that, where we recognize the top 25 individuals and top 15 groups in our community with service, but presented a total of 111 awards between our Excellence in Community Service and our Volunteer Spirit among individuals and groups, recognizing them for service. We hosted our 5th annual Touch Truck event in April. We greatly appreciate the continued support from the City of Starkville departments. We had 367 children participate with 39 vehicles on hand, and this event is a huge fundraiser for us in terms of matching funds for our grant. Overall, between cash and in-kind, it raises $32,023.06 this year. And those are just pictures of our city department employees. They're always great and willing to come out and support our event with their vehicles and engaging with the kids in our community. Join Hands Day is a new day of service for us, partnering with Modern Woodmen. We engaged 32 volunteers at local nursing homes where they did arts and crafts projects with elderly. And our nonprofit training program in the last 6 months, we've hosted 5 volunteer management and other capacity building trainings for nonprofit personnel, and have, among our nonprofit training program and our volunteer leadership training program, we have provided 410 representatives with volunteer management capacity building training with 637 hours. And overall, in our 6 months with our days of service and other projects, our volunteer center has engaged a total of 4,381 volunteers who've contributed 5,825 hours of service. We've documented a total of 17,273 volunteer engagements in our community, translating to 97,436 hours of service, which is calculated to giving back $1,900,976.36 based on the value of volunteer time of $19.51. So that's kind of where we are mid-year. We're excited where we are. I've very much enjoyed working with each of you in my time of Volunteer Starkville. I'm finishing up 5 years in this role, and It's a bittersweet moment, but next Friday is my last day as I'm moving on to serve in a capacity at Mississippi State University as an outreach coordinator for student support services. So I've very much enjoyed presenting to y'all and working with y'all on different matters for the city and growing our organization. I appreciate each and every one of your support in my time here. So.
Well, Ms. Bachman, you have been outstanding in that position.
Thank you.
You are incredibly thorough, which is important in a clearinghouse organization, position like you've been in. But you've got such a big heart, and you know, I believe the heart of this community is really big too. And there's a spirit of giving and volunteerism that, if nurtured properly, can be something spectacular. And you have proved it by making this organization what it is. And goodness, I hope the person who follows you does half as good a job as you've done. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
Any comments from the members?
Mayor, may I be recognized?
Alderman Maynard.
I want to echo that as well. You've done an amazing job, and I know the university's going to be proud to have you in student support services. You'll do a wonderful job there as well. We appreciate everything that you've done, from the volunteer service, the day of service, the touch a truck. We hear positive comments all the time about the work that you're providing, so we appreciated that.
Thank you.
Alderman Walker.
I'll say the same thing, Ms. Bachman. It has been a pleasure to watch you develop this organization from essentially the ground up and make it what it is today. When people think of Volunteer Starkville, I think they think of you. And I think that's through the dedication and the hard work that you put into it to make it extremely successful, and a very important piece of what helps build and make our community as strong as it is. So best of luck. You will be sorely missed, and the next person that fills your role has very big shoes to fill.
Thank you.
Any further comments from the members of the board?
Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mrs. Bachman, thank you so much for your service to our community. I would like to tell you, and I may have mentioned this to you before, you have two great little people that you've inspired here in our city, and I think that you need to know who they are. One of them is a student who will be a sophomore at Starkville High this year. Her name is Mackenzie Ward, and her little sister, Michaela Ward. They enjoy volunteering because of you, and the sweet potato drive is what inspired them. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments? Seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Bachman. Good luck. The next matter before you is a presentation and report by Claudette Jones and Matt Peterson from the Stennis Institute of Government on the salary survey. And you guys have waited a long time to make this presentation.
It just means our presentation will be shorter because y'all had time to look over this.
And y'all will have a max of 10 minutes.
Okay, good, great. Good. Yeah, we actually were here on May the 16th, and the document was actually distributed to y'all. And so I'm going to kind of jump ahead in this since you've had time to go through and look at everything as far as our methodology, which is explained in the document, and I'll just get to the kind of the meat of the situation to be brief. We are Stennis Institute of Government and did this survey for you. We did survey, I'm just jumping through. We surveyed 38 municipalities, and we had a 36% response. 14 of them responded to us. We also went, as far as your airport position is concerned, we got in touch with 19 municipal airports, general aviation airports, to try to come up with figures as far as your airport is concerned. And then we, with your electric department, we had on file from a comprehensive survey that we did last year as far as utilities, electric and water utilities in the state of Mississippi, in addition to the surveys that we sent out specifically for Starkville. We had that information on file that we could fill in with regard to what was being comparably paid for positions in utilities in the state of Starkville. I'm going to jump ahead, and as far as what we did, we provided you with two different approaches to evaluation of pay equity. We looked at what your existing salaries are, and we plugged them into. We have a grade step matrix that gives municipalities or any governing entity the opportunity, if they're interested in addressing equity. It's a 20 step. It's a 20 grades and 20 steps. It basically gives you the opportunity, gives you a 20-year horizon and the opportunity to go from grade 1, which assumes that minimum wage is $7.75, all the way up to grade 20, which are executive level positions. And in each one of those grades, the steps go out 20 steps, and each one of those is a 3% raise. So what we did is we took your existing pay that you were paying each employee, we assigned to them a grade and a step, and then we calculated what a 3% raise would look like with regard to if you wanted to get into that, because then everybody is in the same matrix, in the same system, and they know what to expect within that system, because each step is a 3% raise and each grade is a 10% raise, which basically amounts to a promotion. That's one opportunity that we presented you with. It's a suggestion, and it's just one way to approach pay equity. The other way that we went is to do the survey that you requested, the salary survey, where we took, you have 124 positions in 8 departments. And so what we did is we sent out surveys, and we surveyed for each one of those positions. When we got that information back in, we took that and we provide you with the mean, median, mode, the minimum being paid those positions, the maximum, and then we broke out in percentiles, 25, 50, 75, and 90. They give you an idea. A lot of times when we talk to people, they're interested in knowing what steps are, and I'm talking differently from the step I referenced a moment ago, but within the course, the life of a position, expected advances within that position. And so what those percentiles do, they present you with everything from an entry-level salary up to a long-standing employee. So we did that for each position that you have and that we surveyed. And then we gave you that information. We calculated given what you're paying right now in each one of those positions compared to that mean, and whether the person, if they're above the mean, at the mean, or below the mean, and I will reference that in a moment. Then when we determined what that percent was, I calculated what a dollar value is for that difference, and then there's a number of responses, so you have an idea of how many responses we got per those positions. If you look at the document, just to kind of make it easy, because the matrix is several pages long, it's an Excel spreadsheet, and it's quite small. We provided with 11 by 17 sheets to make it a little bit easier to look at, but basically what I did is to make it even easier to understand what it looked like. I broke it out in, I provided you with people, I provided you with that in your system that are making 80% or below the mean, 75% or below the mean, and 70% below the mean. When you get to where you're making 80%, those are salaries that need to be addressed. I'm going to move on in my schedule. I've discussed that. So what I did is I broke it out, 85 to 99% of the salary mean of your employees. You have 107 that are making 85 to 99%. That's about average. That's That's normal. You have 73 employees that are making above 100%. They're making above the mean. And then you've got 118 that are making 85% of the mean, 68 that are making 80% of the mean, 75 that are 46 that are making 75 and below, and 27 that are making 70% of the mean. Now, what happens when I calculate those percentages to get 100% is when I include 85 and below, that captures everything below it. So what I did is I broke out that right now, 59% of your workforce basically is making 85 to 99% or above 100% of the mean. 26% of your workforce is making, they're making below the 85. And then you've got 15% that are making below 75% of the mean.
I think Alderman Maynard has a question related to this slide.
Okay.
On the bottom two there, when comparing, are you comparing position titles or position descriptions?
Both.
Both?
Both.
in
The
that?
survey contains both the title and the description.
Okay.
So yes, we sent out both.
Thank you.
Based on your job descriptions that were supplied to us.
Okay.
Yes. So when you see the percentages that you've got, that people that are making less than 85% of the mean, those are the positions that people tend to want to address, municipalities, but they particularly want to address people that are making less than 80% of the mean. So what I have done is I've sorted all of that. So and in these sorts, it not only tells you what the position is, gives you the position and the title and what that person is making, and then what it is based, compared to the survey mean.
In that reference, for the ones that you received back from other municipalities, did we also ask the length of service that employee had been there?
We do ask that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they provide that to us and in the response.
Okay.
And I can only give you the numbers that I am given.
Right.
But this is objective in that it is the numbers that come back in the responses to those job titles and to those job descriptions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Continue.
Oh, okay. Okay, now, when we do this sort, what we look at and what we see when we look at 70% of the mean and below is that the workers that tend to fall into that category of being paid substantially less, they end up being your clerks, your maintenance worker, and they end up being in your public services. So you've got, and I put the departments in there, your municipal, and these are that have more than one position listed in them that fall into this category. Your municipal court, your parks, your water services, both water administration, wastewater, and then your sanitary and environmental services, landfill, landscape, and sanitation. And when you sort for 75% or less of the mean, it's still the same group of people that show up. And I want to say this so that you don't feel bad about it, because a lot of times when I do this presentation, municipal officials will be, kind of feel this is typical. These departments tend, particularly maintenance and public services, tend to be the lower paid positions or even the lowest paid positions. When you do 80% of the mean, you see that it ends up maintenance workers, clerks, and public service still show up, and 85% of the mean. It's the same group of workers that show up again and again as far as being in the lower paid positions and making substantially less than the reported mean with regard to the survey responses. And then, and like I said, 85 to 99 tends to be, that's typical, that's being paid approximate to the mean. Fire, police, public services, you do have people that show up but they're in higher level positions. They're not in the maintenance functions of these positions. But I would like to say, as far as fire and police, when we were here for the last meeting, y'all were having a discussion with your fire department, and we are in the process right now of conducting a first responder survey, a comprehensive first responder survey for the state of Mississippi, where we're working with the Fire Academy and with the Police Chiefs Organization, where we've gotten all of the names and contacts. And so we are surveying the first responders, fire and police, to find out what the issues are with regard to recruitment and retention. And one of the things that we are seeing is that the lower level positions, the early in positions, firefighter, not necessarily so much up the chain, entry level policeman, but once those positions are hired in, but once they get certified, once they have that certification, the problem is that municipalities are losing those certified positions to higher paying municipalities and counties. And so that's been a discussion with regard to Starkville, because Starkville is in a situation where you are competing with, you are in competition with Oktibbeha County, with Clay County, with West Point as a municipality, with Columbus, and with Lowndes County. So there are opportunities where your certified firefighters and policemen have an opportunity to go to higher paying situations, and there's not even that much of a drive involved. So I'm just...
That's time, but we spent a couple of minutes on questions, so without objection, I'm going to accept it.
Okay, that's basically, I've basically covered everything else, if you want to ask me a question.
All right, are there any questions or comments by the members of the board? Any questions or comments by the members of the board?
I'm going to have to stand up to see you because I can't see over there.
Excellent job. It was very thorough, and I think this will be a resource that the next administration will utilize often.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And when we finish the first responder survey that we're going to have finished, fingers crossed for MML, that will be, you have that. No problem. We're going to provide that for every municipality in the state of Mississippi. It'll be on our website. It can be accessed. If you've got questions, you can call us, and we'll be able to see what we can do, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The next matter before you is the second of two public hearings for an ordinance revision to Appendix A, zoning Article 9, signage to modify the outdoor advertising billboard requirements. Alderman Little, would you like to introduce this item?
Sure. I'm not sure if anyone's here, but I'll go ahead and touch on it. I'm going to change. I've talked with several of the sign vendors and reviewed the proposed ordinance revisions. We tasked city staff about 4 months ago to bring something forward to tighten up the language in our ordinance as it relates to billboards. And they've made some good headway. I don't think it's quite where we'd like to see it, and that's why I changed the item agenda earlier and added the moratorium extension. And that's where I'm going to head when it gets to the appropriate time when that agenda item comes up. But so I'm not sure that, since we've advertised for the public hearing, we're going to go ahead and proceed with that tonight. And I'm going to ask that city staff work with city attorney and the sign representatives in helping bring forward something, making tweaks to this revision that gets us to where we're trying to go. And that's from the aesthetic standpoint, cleaning up some of those older billboard signs, removing them, and reducing and capping the limit on future signage in the city.
Are there any questions or comments from the members of the board? Seeing none, we'll move into the public comment portion of the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Is there anyone now wishing to speak? Anyone now wishing to speak? Anyone now wishing to speak? Seeing no one, are there any concluding comments by the members of the board? Any concluding comments? Seeing none, that will conclude the second public hearing on the billboard ordinance. The next matter before you is the discussion and consideration of an appeal of the recommendation for denial by the Board of Adjustment and Appeals on VA 17-10. Mr. Sanders, would you like to introduce?
Sure. On May 24th, 2017, the Board of Adjustment and Appeals voted 4-0 to recommend denial of the request to allow a cell phone tower at Stark Road, more specifically 1113 Stark Road. I will allow Mr. Havlin to go into more detail.
The applicant, EchoSites Inc., is proposing to replace an existing communications tower with a newer tower of the same size. The existing tower was previously used by Fort County for communication of its service fleet. The existing tower is aging and cannot support the additional weight of the modern wireless equipment. The proposed tower is being built initially to provide service for Verizon Wireless, but is designed to hold additional carriers in the future. The proposed tower will be a monopole type design with no guy wires or lights. As Mr. Sanders mentioned, on May 24th, the Board of Adjustment and Appeals voted 4-0 to recommend denial of this request. On May 30th, 2017, the applicant appealed the decision of the Board of Adjustment and Appeals to the Board of Alderman. On June 13th, 2017, that is a separate issue but dealing with the same site. The applicant, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-0 to recommend approval of a conditional use request to allow the wireless communications tower at the site. The request for variance for relief from required setbacks is a proposed cell phone tower adjacent to residential areas. There's 3 parts to this request. The first is a setback requirement from residential property. The applicant is requesting a 71-foot setback distance in lieu of the 238-foot setback distance from adjacent residential property. Request number 2 is relief from the setback distance from the property line. The setback distance is required to be equal to the height of the tower. I believe I'm not sure the actual distance, but they're definitely closer than 115 feet. Request number 3 is relief from the setback distance of 2,640 feet from residentially zoned property. The applicant is requesting a 32-foot radius in lieu of the requirement of the 2,640-foot radius. 34 property owners of a record within 300 feet of the subject property were notified directly by mail of this request. A public hearing was noticed in Starkville Daily News on June 5th, 2017. A sign was posted on the property concurrent with the publication of the notice. As of this date, the planning office has received 3 phone calls inquiring about the request, but no phone calls against the request.
Are there any questions or comments from the members of the board? Any city attorney is asked to be recognized.
Mr. Haviland, when the Board of Adjustment and Appeals denied this request, did they ask you guys to pass along a message to this board about why they denied the request?
Correct, and that's what came up in the last meeting on June 6th, was the request for the board to ask city staff to start looking into revising our cell tower ordinance.
Because it was the Board of Adjustment and Appeals opinion that the setback requirements were too onerous as currently written, correct?
Correct.
Any further questions or comments by the members of the board? Alderman Ball?
Does this comply with our ordinance? Because this tower will come up before. Does this comply with our ordinance?
Are you talking about the setbacks?
The setback.
The answer is no.
No.
Why we want to keep breaking our ordinance? Why you keep bringing it to us? If we're not going to go by our ordinance? I asked the question before.
Yes,
Why do we keep doing this?
If someone makes an application and the application isn't complete, they have the right to go through the work process.
Any further questions or comments by the members of the board? Alderman Walker?
Just to make clear, so we're talking about there is an existing tower of the same height in this location, and this would be replacing that tower with a new tower, a different design tower, but in the same location that is the same height?
Correct. The existing one is a lattice work style that has guy wires on it, and it's quite old. Fort County had been in that location in a while, and it was just for communicating with Fort County's trucks. The new tower, is a monopole design. I would say it's similar in appearance to what the new light poles that Starkville Electric puts up, the larger concrete poles. It's similar in appearance to that, though it's metal, not concrete, and then it just has the antenna at the top. All the wiring is internal.
But the height of the proposed tower is the same height as the existing tower?
Correct. I could pull an image up on Google Earth if that would help kind of illustrate.
I've looked at it myself, but if anybody else needs to see it, I'm sure that would be helpful.
Any further questions or comments from members of the board?
I was going to ask Daniel, is this something that we're going to be looking at in the code rewrite, tweaking?
Well, from the meeting, the last Board of Alderman meeting, staff has already started looking into what other municipalities are doing and trying to come together with a draft for a new version of the cell phone towers. I don't believe the cell phone towers are not under zone currently.
No, they're not under zoning, they're under the telecommunications chapter of the code of ordinances.
So for code rewrite, I'm not sure if that would necessarily be addressed.
Thank you.
The answer to your question is no, it was not included in the code rewrite.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll open the public comment portion of the public hearing. At this time, anyone wishing to make comments on this matter may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
I'll be brief. My name's John Moore. I'm co-counsel with Andy Rottenstrike with Baker Donaldson, representing EchoSite Inc. and Verizon Wireless. I wasn't actually present at that hearing, so Mr. Rottenstrike is going to make the presentation, but it is basically a replacement of an existing tower that will look better, be more efficient. And the basic premise behind this is to give better service to the Verizon customers. They're not getting the coverage that they need. So it's not really going to change the appearance of anything other than make it look a little better. And it is behind the Galloway Chandler McKinney building on Stark Road, which is owned by the William Hillman. So I don't think anybody's going to notice anything different. And I think the reason the Board of Adjustment and Appeals did what they did, I think they wanted to try to send the board a message that they feel like the ordinance needs to be modified in some respect. Probably not what they're supposed to be doing, but anyway, that's what that was all about. So with that, I'll let Andy give you his evidence that he presented at that meeting.
Good evening. My name is Andy Rottenstrike here on behalf of EchoSite. Johnny's handing out, Johnny, I think there's like 5 of them, so we might want to spread them out. But Johnny's handing out a photograph of the existing tower that's there now. And as was said, we're simply trying to replace this tower that is not safe to hold our equipment so that we can build one that's strong enough to hold our equipment and equipment for other carriers. So Verizon, there will be space and the tower will be built strong enough not only to hold Verizon Wireless's equipment, but any of the competitors that come along in the future that decide they want to improve their service in that area. As with any site where Verizon needs new coverage, they first look to place their antennas on existing towers. We looked around. This was the only tower in the vicinity that would hold us. Our alternative would be to build a new tower where there is no tower. But since there was an existing tower here, that's our first option. Usually much quicker and cheaper to get on existing towers. But when we looked at this tower and saw how flimsy it was and knew it wouldn't hold us and knew that it was likely going to be a safety issue, that's when we came to the city to propose what we call a drop and swap. So this tower will be removed when the new tower is complete. There still will only be one tower on the property, and the goal is simply to give us a structure that's tall enough to make sure we're getting good coverage to all the growth and the residents that have come out there that are calling us with issues to fix their coverage. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer.
We'll hear questions at the end.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further public comments? Any further public comments?
My name's Kenneth Austin. My house is in that picture, and I had no clue that there was a cell tower behind my house until they sent me the letter that said we want to build a new one. And then I looked and it said, all right, I just learned tonight the new one is the same height as the old one. I was worried about the airplanes passing over, because y'all know I like airplanes. But it being the same height and all that, I got no problem with it. My house, like I said, is about 3 houses from that cell tower, and my Verizon coverage is pathetic. I didn't know I was that close to a cell tower. So I say, get rid of the old one and put up the new one. All right? Nobody will know it's there. Go for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. Any further public comment? Any further public comment? Any further public comment? Seeing none, we'll move into concluding comments by the members of the board. Alderman Carver.
I was just gonna thank you for this. Hopefully it'll pass. Being in Ward 1, I had no idea, but from your diagrams, just looking at the gaps and coverage, so hopefully this will be successful. Thank you.
Any further concluding comments by the members of the board? Any further concluding comments? Any further concluding comments? Seeing none, that will conclude the public hearing on the appeal of VA 17-10. The next matter you have before you is the consideration of the reconsideration of the Starkville Comprehensive Plan. This matter is exactly the same as it was December 20th. The reason it is back before you is the city attorney, in preparing for the May 5th court hearing on the rezoning case, which was a different matter than this matter, but tangentially related to the adoption of the comprehensive plan, fully researched our public hearing process leading up to the adoption of the comprehensive plan. And while we had 4 public input sessions that were all noticed by publication prior to the adoption of the comprehensive plan, not a single one of those was 15 days or more prior to the adoption of the plan. This is an issue that's regulated by state statute. And that state statute requires 15-day notice prior to holding a public hearing for the adoption of the plan. So as you know, a bill of exceptions had been filed in this case, and that case has not been heard yet. The state that the comprehensive plan is left in is you have an approved comprehensive plan, but it is set, not yet set but with a fixed date, but it is set to go before a court for review. And the city attorney believes, and I agree with him, that the failure to meet the statutory requirement for notice by publication is fatal when and if we were to go before a judge. So you have a comprehensive plan that's adopted, but we feel were we to make an argument before a judge that it was adopted in compliance with law, that would not be a winning argument. Furthermore, since this is a public notice issue, we just feel it's the right thing to do to go back and correct the error. So what we'll be doing tonight is we do have, and I'll ask the city attorney to verify, we do have proper statutory notice that's been met in this case. Is that correct?
We do, Mayor.
So that has been met. We will have a public hearing on the comprehensive plan. Again, it is 100% as it was, as you discussed it in December, and then you'll have an opportunity to approve it again. So at this time, I'll ask, are there any questions or comments by the members of the board? Alderman Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Attorney, this matter was passed rather hurriedly at the last meeting in December of 2016. This matter was the first of the 2 matters that were appealed to the Circuit Court of Octavia Hall County, Mississippi. My question to you as the city's attorney, has this matter been briefed before the Circuit Court, or is it just sitting on the active docket right now?
It is just sitting on the active docket now, no briefing yet.
And just to further clarify for the record, of course, the mayor mentioned that you certainly need to have notice without meeting the statutory requirement. That board's action dated December 20 or 21, 2016, whichever is the correct date, is certainly without any legal effect, even though the board passed it. That's why you're back here tonight, because if you didn't meet the statutory requirement, then that has no legal force and effect. So basically, the board passed an action at the December 2016 meeting without complying with the state law. Now, Mr. Attorney, you probably want to make it, I'm not going to support it because I'm going to be consistent on my vote, but you need to develop the record because the mayor asked you, the record needs to be clean going to circuit. The mayor asked you, and this nothing unfriendly, hopefully, but the mayor asked you, had the notice requirement been met, and I guess I can develop that for you if you need me to do it. I saw a notice in the paper. I read these legal notices, being an attorney here, so I saw a legal notice in the Starkville News. That's the notice we're talking about on June 3rd of 2017, and the hearing was set for June 20th. Is that the legal notice you're talking about?
That's correct.
Okay, I just make sure the record is clear. We have a court reporter here, and we need to make sure it wasn't introduced initially when this hearing was started. We had a court reporter, and it's always the proper procedure and protocol is to give the court reporter time to set up so she can get all the records, and for purpose of the record, I'm the Vice Mayor Roy. You got my name tag. So, there's just you know the process, attorney. I mean, it's not unfriendly, but we got to get the record developed. And I represent a number of boards, in case those of you in the audience may not be familiar. Just everybody have their own background. Alderman Walker's good with his expertise, and everybody good with their expertise. But we have to make sure the record is properly developed, because when this record leaves here, there's a certain level of review at the next court. If you don't get this record right here, there's going to be a problem. So I just want to make sure that part of the record is developed, and make it clear that action that the board passed back in December, certainly has no legal force in effect, because the board failed to comply with state law, and that is that they did not give the 15-day notice requirement. So, Mr. Mayor, I yield the floor at this time.
Are there any further questions or comments by the members of the board? Any further questions or comments by the members of the board? Seeing none, we'll move to the public comment portion of the public hearing, and at this time, anyone wishing to speak on the matter may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening. Again, I'm Susan Bell Morris, and Starkville native and a property owner here. I have a handout of my brief statements if you'd like to have that before. I'm also including, just for your information, a copy of a letter to the editor that was published this morning in the Starkville Daily News related to the same matter. I just wanted you to have that as a matter of record before your consideration this evening. So, there are two things. That's official copy. And I'd like these to be a matter of the official record of this piece. And then that's 3 of the letter. Oops, sorry. Maybe I'll pass those 2 down. Save time. Thank you.
Ma'am, you can have the space. You want to get to the record, it gets to the court reporter, it'll be marked.
Okay.
Ask for permission to get it marked for the court reporter.
Okay, so I'd like to request that this get marked as the matter of the official record for the court reporter. Would that be here? Thank you. With respect to your reconsideration of the comprehensive plan, the link sought to rezone certain property adjacent to our property. As part of that process, we argued that the rezoning sought did not comply with the lawfully adopted comprehensive plan of the city. We then appealed the decision of the city granting the rezoning sought by Link. A hearing was conducted, as the mayor indicated, on this appeal in May of this year. It appears that the city had knowledge of a defect in the process of the adoption of the comprehensive plan in December of 2016 prior to that May hearing. The city apparently chose to not disclose this knowledge to us or to the Circuit Court of Oktibbeha County. We recall that the city actually argued during that hearing that the comprehensive plan purportedly passed in December of 2016 was valid and justified the rezoning of the land next to our property. Our property is located in a rural area on the outskirts of town, but the proposed plan wants to put the property in a section of the city classified in this plan as an optional area. As to rural areas, the plan says, 1, keep rural areas rural, 2, avoid strip commercial on rural corridors, 3, rural centers should be county crossroads. This new optional area classification in this proposed plan literally allows any type of zoning use under the ordinance to be placed immediately next door to a totally incompatible use. The plan does not properly consider the existing uses of the land, in our case, which are agricultural and residential, and that has been the case for over 120 years. And the plan doesn't consider the impact this change creates. There's no transitional planning included for development purposes, and the adoption of such a plan would be, in essence, no plan at all for these optional areas. Zoning should be in compliance with a comprehensive plan, a properly approved one, yet this proposed plan would allow the city to zone any parcel for any use from one extreme to the other in this optional area. This plan offers landowners no protection. It will potentially inhibit the development of land and discourage significant investments that we may make or others may make, as no one wants to invest money in one parcel only to have a completely incompatible use located next door. That cannot be good for the city. Investments would be taxed and would be good for the city. The plan states that a goal is to make natural areas better, but including this area as an optional area does not promote such a goal. Zoning should provide for continuity and for orderly development. This optional area part of the plan is inconsistent with other parts of the plan itself and the stated goals of the plan, and does not offer any protection for the owners of property within it. The course, to use the mayor's example earlier tonight, for the future of North Starkville should be charted more carefully in terms of this plan and the related proposed zoning. This plan should not be adopted as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. Do we have any further public comment?
I'm Leah Ellis, and I'm also a property owner in Ward 5. I also have a handout of my written statement and an article that I referenced in my statement. So I have copies for all of you. I think we'll need one more. First of all, I'd like to say that just because you approved this plan in December doesn't mean you have to reapprove it tonight. So for your consideration, I'd like you to consider tabling this or postponing it until you've considered all of the other information we're bringing to light. As a property owner who's viewed the proposed comprehensive plan, I've found that there are severe inconsistencies between what is discussed in the plan in terms of considerations for development and what is actually proposed in the plan and the related developments currently pursued by the city. Specifically, page 10 of this proposed comprehensive plan shows the area north of Highway 82 as primarily trees or floodplain. It describes this land as follows, and I quote, "Much of the heavy tree cover is associated with streams, floodplains, and slopes, all lands less suited for development." And page 9 notes that, and I also quote, "The northern portion of the community has the greatest extent of steep slopes. This is also an area in the city that is least developed, particularly north of US 82, end quotes. So this area will require steep grading and would be very expensive to develop. The property north of Highway 82 would be the most expensive and difficult to develop in any area of our city based on the topography, soil type, watershed, and floodplains. These facts are on pages 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, and several other pages in this plan. So in short, the proposed plan does not adequately address the considerations which seem to have been ignored in the related recent rezoning of the proposed industrial site. So I urge the city to take time to examine the appropriate considerations so that taxpayer funds are not wasted. I also urge the city to proceed with the actions requested by the county for the Cornerstone project as noted in today's Starkville Dispatch headline. Cornerstone is already a significant investment of the taxpayers' funds and should be utilized prior to pursuing new and clearly much more expensive development in North Starkville. Finally, I point out for the record that Mr. Joe Max Higgins, CEO of Golden Triangle Development, Inc., stated on February 15, 2017, to a meeting of the Columbus Kiwanis Club that there are clear obstacles to developing in a part of a city like North Starkville, inside the city limits. His public statements contradict support for approval of this plan and related M1 zoning. His statements included, and I quote, "Another real obstacle for cities is that companies are required to pay taxes to 3 entities, both the city and county government, as well as the public school district. When you locate in the county, you are down to 2 taxing entities, end quote. So why would he tell Columbus one thing and tell Starkville something different? This is another reason that this board should not approve this plan tonight at this time when other shovel-ready developments such as Cornerstone and others in this county are available. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Are there any further public comments?
May I address the board from here?
Sure.
Okay, the lady mentioned that the land for the proposed industrial park is in a floodplain, or the land north of 82. Well, I farmed a lot of land north of 82 that wasn't a floodplain. I own the 150 acres that is proposed to be included in this industrial park. I have farmed it for 30 years, been on it for 30 years, and we have researched the maps. It is not in a floodplain, so that is incorrect.
Mr. Waldrop, could you state your name for the record?
My name is Dudley Walden.
Thank you. Further public comment?
Mayor, members of the board, Chris Pace, I'm the attorney for the Golden Triangle Development Link. I had a couple of matters I wanted to introduce into the record tonight and address just a couple of the comments made by the 2 first speakers this evening. First,
Would you like to have your...
I'll get to that before I sit down. But most of the comments seem to have been about the proposed development of industrial park, not the adoption or consideration by this board of a new comprehensive plan that addresses development, zoning, and future land use across the city of Starkville. So I just wanted to have somebody in the record, make the point that these are 2 very different things. While I appreciate the comments folks made about their specific property concerns, the decision before the board tonight is a much broader issue. I do want to get into the record, however, in looking at the folks here tonight that have spoken opposition to this, and the folks that have appealed the prior zoning decision with respect to the industrial park, namely LMK, LLC, Ms. Margaret Copeland, Ms. Mary Bell, Ms. Betty Bell, and I'm probably missing someone in that mix, but the appellants in that case. 2 of those appellants recently agreed, they agreed in 2015 to sell up to 60 acres of their property out in the same area that would be impacted not only by the comprehensive plan, but that's adjacent to the proposed park, for use for a transmission line to serve the park. I'll introduce in the record that option agreement, later the transaction where they sold that property, where things sort of ran awry between that original agreement to sort of participate in this development. In that option agreement, they agreed to support any zoning request made as part of any rezoning for their property for those transmission lines. We haven't done that yet. We may have to invoke that agreement at some point in the future when we have to seek a conditional use for a new substation and transmission lines on that property. But someone brought up the point earlier, it's somewhat disingenuous. It certainly seems somewhat disingenuous to the link that some of the same folks that originally agreed to participate in that larger development, insofar as to sell up to 60 acres of their own property, are now standing up here protesting it. Second of all, and I'll end my comments on this, after a fairly exhaustive search of Mississippi Supreme Court cases dealing with the adoption of comprehensive plans, I would like to introduce in the record a copy of Mississippi Manufacturing Housing Association versus the Board of Supervisors of Tate County, which imposed not only the right on boards of aldermen to routinely and systematically consider the adoption and amendments of comprehensive plans and the overall zoning scheme for an entire city, but in fact placed an obligation on city boards and on county boards that have zoning to go through that process on a periodic basis to consider the future, not only the current growth needs and land uses, but the future growth needs. One other point, just to get it in the record, Mr. Mayor and board members, someone brought up the point that the proposed future use in the comprehensive plan was not consistent with current uses. It's my understanding upon reading the comprehensive plan, nothing in the comprehensive plan limits the continued use of any property for the use that is for which it's used today. So nothing is being mandated upon any property owner that they somehow change the use of their property based on the adoption of the comprehensive plan or any subsequent zoning ordinance adopted by the city. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Page. I'm gonna get this on the record, if you will.
Are you comfortable?
Thank you.
All right, so your record is not our record, and for purposes of what officially happens in a city proceeding, our record is the one that counts. So I need to make sure at the conclusion of this hearing, we'll probably have a recess at the conclusion of the hearing. Just need to have the city clerk interface with the two of you to make sure she has all the documents that you need.
No.
So we'll do that. We'll keep the public hearing going now. If the three of you will promise me that as soon as we break at a recess, you'll all get together and make sure the city clerk has all the documents that you need. Let's go.
Margaret Seth Copeland, and I had no intention of speaking. I do not want to rehash the dealings with the link that have been a disaster for my family. We have been lied to. We told it was a research park. We were to give them, or they wanted to have a transmission line across our property. They needed this TVA to decide where the transmission line would go. And we thought, okay, there's a transmission line behind us and you can cross this small area of our property. Because they didn't know where they wanted it, they wanted an option on all of it. We had no intention whatsoever in selling them any part of it except to cross with a transmission line. Then in December, we learned it's an industrial park, it's not a research park. They needed to be rezoned to do something else. And now they're gonna put the substation on our property, which we never would have given them the right to cross or to have or to use our property. So that, gee, I hate to stand before you and say how bad it is to deal with the link. And I thought after we finished with that little bitty bit where they took our land, paid us for a little bit for it, not nearly what they're paying everybody else. Remember that Joe McHiggins has quoted as, this is cheaper than anything else. So it has nothing to do, we're not here about the money, we're here about how we have been treated and how our land has been taken, and taken to give to 16th section. So Mr. Pace is a little bit misleading when he stands up here and tells you some of that. And I would like the record very clear with all of you. You need to know what you're dealing with before you get into all of this mess. And we don't like the fact that our land, which has been in the family for many, many years, is going to be impacted by an industrial site. You wouldn't want it either. Not a one of you up here would want that.
Thank you, Ms. Cope.
I'm here, so Mel, and I wasn't going to speak either, but I think we've been thrown under the bus again by the link. They knew they misrepresented it in the beginning. They told us don't consult anybody, don't tell anybody. I didn't tell my children. We didn't consult a lawyer. And then my husband did building and zoning for Starkville for 32 years. I know a little bit about zoning. Mr. Perkins knows about zoning. There's a complete change in what you approved. You don't go from nice areas to an M1 zone, the lowest that you have in your city. It has nearly killed us. And I think it killed my husband. And also, they harass people. Now you can check it out. You can check it out with their board members. They may not tell you the truth, but it's despicable.
Thank you, Ms. Bell. Are there any further public comments? Any further public comments? Any further public comments? Any further public comments? Oh, seeing no further public comments, I'll ask for any concluding comments from the members of the board, and I see that the city attorney wishes to be recognized.
So Mayor, just for record purposes, since there's been a lot of discussion about that, these will be the items attached to the city's minutes and certainly can be double stamped by the court reporter so we have a consistent record. So this is what I've got, and if I don't have something, somebody speak up. I have the letter to the editor written by Susan Bell Morris dated June 20th, 2017. I have a statement signed by Laura White, Margaret Sudeth Copeland, LMK LLC, and Susan Bell Morris. I have a written statement signed by Leah Bell Ellis dated June 20th, 2017. And attached to that, a Starkville Dispatch article from February 16, 2017, with a paragraph highlighted in red relating to Joe Max Higgins' comments. I have an option agreement presented by Link attorney Chris Pace, and attached to that option agreement is a warranty deed, which has been recorded in the Oktibbeha County Land Records at Book 2017, page 4333, and a case provided by Mr. Pace, which is Mississippi Manufacturing Housing Association versus Board of Supervisors of Tate County, 878 Southern 2nd, 180. And in addition to that, we will make a part of the record the complete Board of Alderman packet on this, which are all of these materials, which consist of a cover page dated June 20th, 2017, and attachments 1 through 12.
Were there any exhibits or was there any document presented that the city attorney did not just describe?
Mr. Mayor, if I may recognize.
You may.
Mr. City Attorney, I think it would also be correct to add for the record a video recording of the meeting of this Mayor Board of Alderman. So will you advise the chair so that can be duly admitted to the record, so when there won't be any questions about what exhibits make up the record when the record gets back to circuit, if in fact it get appealed. So there needs to be a video recording and a transcript. The court reporter is doing the transcript, so that'll go within appeal, but certainly the video recording would need to go.
So noted. We will attach the video of this Board of Alderman meeting June 20th, 2017.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Were there any documents presented that the city attorney did not just describe? Were there any documents presented that the city attorney did not just describe? Seeing none, are there any concluding comments by the members of the board? Are there any concluding comments by the members of the board? Seeing none, that will conclude this public hearing on the reconsideration of the comprehensive plan. And without objection, I'm going to take us into a brief recess. Seeing none, we'll stand in a brief recess. The meeting will now come back to order. The first matter before you is the reconsideration of the comprehensive plan. Discussion.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to Alderman Wynn, are you still on the phone? Alderman Wynn. Alderman Wynn?
There's a connection issue.
Oh, we need a full response.
Hello?
All right, good deal. Alderman Wynn is with us. And the motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the proposed comprehensive plan as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter? No. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion?
Mayor?
Alderman Wynn?
Yes, may I be recognized?
You
Thank
may.
you so much. I didn't initially support this, and I stated those reasons then, and I'll state them again tonight, that I was concerned about Ward 6 and Ward 7 not being properly addressed. So I will not be supporting this measure tonight. I yield the floor.
Any further discussion? Any further
May I be recognized?
You may.
Well, I certainly support the lady from 2 echoing about Ward 6 and 7, so I'm going to concur about Ward 6 and 7, so I yield the floor.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please respond by saying yay, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Wynn.
Nay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Nay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Nay.
By a vote of 4 in favor with 3 against, the motion passes. The next matter before you is, y'all got me jumping all over the place. The discussion and consideration of an appeal of the recommendation for denial by the Board of Adjustment and Appeals of VA 17-10. Discussion.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to, do you want to reverse, do you want to grant the appeal and approve of the cell phone tower? All right, motion has been made by Alderman Little to grant the appeal and approve of the request of the applicant in VA 17-10 as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, please respond by saying yea, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Nay.
By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, the motion passes. The next matter you have before you is the consideration of acceptance of a warranty deed for a parcel near Rolling Hill subdivision. I'm actually not asking for your consideration of approval of this matter tonight. I had hoped to be in a position to ask you, but I will give you some history about the project, because I hope this is something the city will carry forward, because I believe it's a worthy project. There is a pond near the front of Rolling Hill subdivision, and the pond is surrounded by quite a bit of green space. Right now it's covered with trees, but it could be cleared and used in many different manners. I received a complaint about 3 months ago, and as a matter of fact, I have received a complaint periodically through the years from adjacent property owners about the condition of that pond. There are adjacent property owners that feel the levee is not stable, and it threatens their property with a large amount of runoff. Well, I did 2 things upon hearing that concern. First was I asked the city engineer to assess the condition of the pond. City engineer reached out to DEQ, and DEQ was happy to consult on matters of pond stability that were at issue here. They did evaluate it, and DEQ advised that with some minimal improvements, the levee and the spillway could be stabilized. The city engineer assesses the situation as one where in-house city labor could make the necessary improvements for the levee and the spillway to be stabilized. I also had the city attorney research title on the property, because this is not a piece of property that we're regularly used to maintaining as a piece of city property. In fact, it's currently not a piece of city property. There is no record title with respect to the property. So it is, as of now, an undesignated piece of property. Now, I have gone down the path of trying to get this property deeded to the city, which there is no easy process, since there is technically no one, at least that we can find, to convey that property directly to the city. The reason I've done that is because I think the property is potentially an asset next to a neighborhood of several hundred people. It could make a very nice park space in the future. I think the pond could serve as an amenity. You could potentially have a walk path around the pond. You have green space left that you could put to any number of particularly passive recreational uses. So that's what I had been working towards, and I put this on the agenda knowing this was my last meeting, hoping that I would have the process that the city attorney ended up authorizing to get the property deeded to the city. Was essentially to get every adjacent property owner to sign a quitclaim deed. Our theory being that once everybody with an adjacent interest in that property has effectively claimed the property to the city, that was probably the best we were going to get in terms of having somebody convey that property to us. So the deed has been drawn. It's been presented to those adjacent property owners, and many of those property owners are still weighing their options, determining whether they wish to sign the quitclaim deed to the city. So I believe this is a project that Vice Mayor supports, and since it's in his ward, I hope that he'll carry this forward in the next term. And I do think it would be a worthwhile endeavor for the city to take this property, because right now there's not any park spaces that are in very close proximity to Rolling Hills, which is a very large neighborhood, and it could be an asset, I believe. So consider that an update on that matter, and I hope you'll carry it forward. Are there any questions on the card?
The only question I have is there was some verbiage added tonight about the landscaping, and is there any kind of not to exceed amount associated with that, or do we have a cost estimate?
Everything that would have been proposed tonight would have been done with the city time. I don't believe there was a single hard cost. Obviously labor costs are costs, but those are costs that we pay anyways.
Thank you.
Now, if you want to make this a park space that is something desirable in the future, you're going to have to spend some city resources beyond city labor to do that. The first phase would be to stabilize the pond, and we believe that can be done at no out-of-pocket cost to the city using the city workforce.
Thank you.
Any further questions by the members of the board? Any further questions? All right, seeing none, the next matter before you is the consideration of providing in-kind city equipment and labor for installation of drainage improvement project on the First Baptist Church property. Let me offer some introductory comments to tell you what this is and how we got here. I believe all of you may be aware of it from past communications from First Baptist Church. I've worked with Dr. Herring for several months now to try to find a way the city could collaborate with the church on a drainage improvement project. And of course, most of the drainage projects that we do as a city are on private property. That's the nature of drainage work. Most of the time, people have a drainage way on their property, and the justification for how the city does that is typically that they drain public streets. That's the most common justification that we use. And we have the ability to maintain the flow of the drainage ways within the city. So also erosion can be an issue, and how erosion might impede the flow of drainage. It would not be unlike a typical drainage project if the city was to deem it a priority to go in and do a drainage stabilization project in this channel. What makes this unusual is that First Baptist Church would like to do the project. They'd like to buy the materials. They have designed the project, but they would like us to offer city labor to help complete the project. Now, city labor would not be completing the entire project. There is a junction box that has to be built that the city engineer tells me is quite an extensive labor project. And his first estimate of how much labor would be required to complete the project had an estimate of nearly 5 weeks of the time of 1/2 of the street crew that would be dedicated to it. I told Dr. Herring I just thought that was too much. asked Edward if he could go back and he could take the junction box portion out of the project, and the city labor could help construct the pipe on both sides of it. And he estimated the labor at approximately 2 weeks there, which I think we can do without catastrophic consequences. Now, to my knowledge, we have not done a labor share project like this before. The justification, you would need to justify it under one of the justifications which allows us to do drainage work in general, which would allow us to pay for the entire project if we wanted to. Then beyond that, there would be that sharing arrangement. So that's the proposal. Alderman Carver.
Being private property, I have some hesitation about it, but I actually worked on a project on a house over there for about 6 or 8 weeks, and the proximity to this from downtown, if everybody knows the bridge, I witnessed all day, every day, mainly city and public utility, bucket trucks, anything of that nature has to come down this road to get around the bridge if they're coming down to construction sites, downtown, or any kind of, I witnessed more probably government vehicles on this road than any other type of vehicles. So I will be in support of this tonight. Thank you.
Further discussion? Alderman Mayor.
City Attorney, what are your thoughts on this?
The legal test, let me start with the general rule, and it's the general rule because it's the predominant rule under the law relating to this issue. And that rule is that a municipality does not have authority to use its equipment and or labor to remedy drainage problems on private land. So again, that's the general rule, that the city can't go on private land to remedy these private drainage problems. The Attorney General has allowed for a narrow exception. It turns on the city making a finding of fact, and that finding of fact has to be consistent with the true facts at issue. In other words, it can't be arbitrary or capricious or not based on evidence. And so the AG says the city can do this if the board makes a finding of fact that such work will promote the health, comfort, and convenience of the inhabitants of the city by helping to alleviate flooding and contribute to better drainage of a public street. Another AG opinion says it slightly differently. It says the governing authorities may perform work on private property adjacent to the city right-of-way with the permission of the landowner to correct unsafe conditions, i.e. erosion or sinkholes, or flooding, which were directly caused by the way in which the municipality drained the city streets. So I believe the board needs to make a finding of fact, true with the consistent facts, if it so chose to do so, that there's a flooding issue or an erosion issue or a sinkhole issue. Absent those conditions, then I don't think the finding of fact can be truthfully made.
Alderman Carver.
Are those findings of fact here tonight that would allow justification for voting for this?
I understand that Mr. Kemp's willing to speak to those issues if the board wants to hear a factual summary of what he believes is going on with the street.
You may. Alderman Perkins.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, before I hit, engineer, could you just have a seat a minute until I get through talking? Let me just tighten this up a little bit. Certainly, if the board approves this tonight, then there will be a floodgate of requests to help us or help them with these type matters. The next administration and the administration after that and after that do not need to be getting a floodgate of requests to do work on private property. I mean, anyone can come in and make an argument that, the water is going to flow from private property onto a public stream. That's almost everything that you have. There's no legal authority. And of course, Mr. Latimer is my good friend, good lawyer, but we would respectfully disagree on wording on some things, and this is one where we just respectfully disagree on this. And I'm just going to put it a lot tighter. The city, in my legal opinion, does not have any legal authority to do this. I'm not going to be having a conversation with the state auditor of the state of Mississippi about voting to do work on private property. It's just not going to happen. I've been here 24 years, and it's not going to start at this last meeting of my 24th year. Amen. Now, And I'm not going to be having a conversation with no district attorney and no attorney general of the state of Mississippi about voting to do work on private property. Now, I don't have anything against the church. You know, I've been up in the church all my life, but the law is the law. You know, we got to comply with the law. If this was a legal request, we could help the church. You know, we talk about exceptions and exceptions. Now, we're going to happen when persons A through Z come before this board? Well, I got private property, but you know this. You know what? It's draining down onto a city street. And you remember when you were in session on the 20th day of June of 2017, you helped First Baptist Church, and all I'm asking you to do, Mayor and Board of Alderman, is just to treat me the same way. So what you going to tell them? Well, you know, I mean, you're not the First Baptist Church, and I'm not going to treat you the same way. I mean, nothing negative here. I'm just a straight talker. This is just good, clean, straight talk from a country boy. You know, that's just how it is. I mean, we just need to talk straight, tell it like it is. You know, and as sure as we approve for this night, when Ms. Spruill gets sworn in on July the 3rd of 2017, and the rest of this board takes office, and you can rest assured, the 5 of us who are here are going to come back, and the alderman from Ward, Ms. Sistrunk will be here, and Mr. Patrick Miller will be here, Ms. Spruill will be there, and we're going to be listening to these same requests every board meeting. We know, well, we all approve of this. It's on private property, but yet, you know, it's flowing on a public street. The worst mistake to do tonight is to hear from this engineer and give us some findings of fact. We don't need to waste this time. There are many ways to help the First Baptist Church, and we've helped the First Baptist Church dating way back years ago. We've helped them on a number of projects. A no vote is not against the church. A no vote is a vote to do what is legally correct. You know, we got to take a stand. You know, we're great leaders. That's why the taxpayers voted us to be leaders. The voters have spoken. They have voted who they want to lead, and we got to lead. If you make this mistake and vote on private property, you're going to hear about this vote. It's going to stay with your legacy. It's going to stay with your voting record. The best thing to do when these things come up, and I've been dealing with this, Mr. Carl Smith, for 24 years. And I'm not going to do differently now. I'm not going to get sent to the House. I'm not going to get a letter from the state auditor to talk about, you know, I'm sending you a demand letter because you voted to do work on private property. No, that's not going to happen. Not here. You've been practicing law for almost 30 years. You don't know any better? Look, I have advised many agencies, boards, and commissions, and one of the longest boards I've advised was the Mississippi Board of Nursing. I did that for 12 years. And I advised that through many gubernatorial administrations, Republicans and Democrats. And my job was to advise as to the law. And that's no disrespect. The lawyer's doing his job. But I just disagree here. But we just have to have a conservative stand and do what the law says. Don't get caught with no exception. Those exceptions, you know, may lead you to a real exception. The hard and fast rule on the law is don't get on no private property. That's why we didn't go out there on Treasure Lane and Hendricks Road and Roundhouse Road and Fannindale Road and Jesse Road and did we go out there and do work on that private property? We said no, and we did the right thing because those were private roads. And in order to do any work, what did we do? First of all, we had to accept the road. Why do we want to accept them? Because that was the only legal authority that enabled us to do work on the roads. Now, again, I want to applaud the First Baptist Church, one of the leading churches, one of the most beautiful churches. I mean, they are just a great facility. I've been in the center there where the old fire station number 1 out there behind the Van Landingham property. There used to be a city location there, a city fire station. I remember all the history on that. That was in my early years on this board. And we sold that to the First Baptist Church. We've helped that church in a lot of ways, and they're going to continue to be a leading church in this community. And I just want to applaud them. We appreciate that minister for all his service as a chaplain, but this is, we cannot help them tonight. And board members, I would not take the time, and Mr. Budget Chair, I wouldn't be taking this time in your last board meeting talking, but this is a serious issue. This is a serious issue. The question before us tonight, can we do work by expending taxpayers' monies and using taxpayer workforce on private property. You know, they start doing private property. What keeps them from going on your property, Mr. Kemp? Your property pours water, I'm sure, to a city street. My property, all of our property pour water onto a street. So where are you going to draw the line at? You can't draw the line. You have to fulfill all these requests. So what do? Sit up here as a board, and this is the next administration. It's all we're going to hear every board meeting. And let's not put ourselves in that position. We need to, you know, if this motion is made, get a second. We just need to respectfully deny it and do the right thing. You know, and we love First Baptist President. They are, you know, great people, great church, great president in our community. We're glad they're here, and they've done great things. One of the most beautiful sanctuary, great facilities, creative learning center. But we cannot do it. So, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Attorney, and let me say this. I got to make sure I say what I need to say. And lawyer, let me have some eye contact with you here. You know, and you have to agree with me. Don't tell me and answer these questions. No, it's not, because we're going to have a real discussion now. This is a slippery slope in your opinion, correct?
Correct.
I yield the floor, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
No, let's hear from Mr. Kemp first. Mr.
Okay.
Kemp,
Mayor.
Mr. Kemp.
Mayor. Mayor.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, can you hear me?
I was going to advise Mr. Kemp, if I were him, I would recuse myself. He is a member over there at that church and serves in a leadership role. That's my advice to our city engineer. However, he may proceed, but I would advise him to recuse himself from this discussion. He is a member of that church, and the last I knew, he serves in a leadership role in that church.
Mr. Kemp, let me make this, try to make this as easy as I can make it, and if you feel uncomfortable answering this question, you feel free not to answer the question. Of the reasons that the city attorney read a few moments ago, would you agree with me that probably the only reasons that would qualify under that line of opinions in this particular case would be street drainage and erosion?
Mayor, I would say that yes, it does drain a city street upstream. And then, yes, being an open channel, it is more subject to erosion.
And we could exclude the rest, which I believe were flood and what else? Sinkholes. So if the board was to make a finding of fact, it would have to be on either street drainage, erosion, or a combination of both. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kemp.
Mr. Mayor, I recognize?
You may.
Mr. Attorney, the lady from Two Races, a point of order, and I think.
And I would like to be recognized after someone yields the floor.
Ms. Allen, now I still have the floor, Mr. Attorney. The lady from Two Races, a very valid point of order. No disrespect here. This is a very important matter. Talking about doing work on private property. I think that there is an appearance, apparent or potential appearance of impropriety here. You know, and not saying that there's any an appearance, but I'm talking about an apparent, a potential appearance when you have to have a member of the church, give an opinion on this. I mean, I think he should recuse himself on this, so we can get a very neutral and unbiased opinion.
Mr. Kemp, are you a member of that church?
If in fact he is, that's assuming he is. I don't know whether he is or not.
I'm not.
Okay,
He has stated he's not a member of that church.
But nevertheless, my comments still hold. Mr. Attorney, Mr. Mayor, I yield the floor.
All right, I've got Alderman Nguyen, then Alderman Carter.
Okay. Mayor, is it my turn?
It is.
I am very concerned that if the board were to adopt it, what you're doing is opening up a door for all of the churches in the city of Starkville to come and ask for assistance. I respect First Baptist Church here in Starkville. They are great stewards in our community. It is a beautiful church. I respect Pastor Chip Stevens. He's one of our chaplains, and I have many friends over there. The first something that I learned in my role as an alderman, and actually I learned it as alderman-elect because I started receiving telephone calls. You cannot do work on private property. In the state of Mississippi, the term for that is called an impermissible donation. If this church is not owned by the city of Starkville and it is private property, any alderman that supports this tonight is probably perhaps violating the law. I, Lisa Wynn, that presently represent Ward 2, will not support this. At the end of my term, I will no longer have representation for board council. I cannot support this. This could possibly end up with some citizens filing a complaint to the state auditor's office, and we would be in violation. I cannot support this tonight. And again, I admire and respect First Baptist Church, but I cannot support this because, again, it would be called an impermissible donation. You cannot use taxpayer funds for their equipment and go on to private property and do any form of work. I yield the floor.
Alderman Carter.
City Attorney, would you say, just to recap on the question, you're saying it's illegal tonight if we vote in favor of this project?
It violates the general rule. You know, it's my job to tell you what the complete law is. And in this case, there's a general rule and there are exceptions. And it's my job to give you that complete legal lay of the land and let you make a decision. I certainly do echo Vice Mayor Perkins' sentiments, though, on two grounds. Number one, the general rule should control most of the time. Otherwise, the exceptions swallow the rule. That's number one. And number two, I do think this decision has tremendous precedential value and sets the board up for similar requests like this going down the pike. And I think the board needs to search its heart and mind and decide whether there's really a drainage issue on this street, or is there really an erosion issue in that ditch, or would that be a pretext for finding that fact?
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? I do not believe you have a motion pending. Do you have a motion pending? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, the next matter that you have before you, help me out here, Chris. Is it board business A?
Yes.
The discussion and consideration of addressing a request from the Oktibbeha County Board of Supervisors and the OCEDA President, Mr. Jack Wallace, regarding modifying the ordinance regulations for sidewalks and landscape. Alderman Nguyen, would you like to introduce?
Yes, I would. Thank you so much, Mayor. Mr. Clemens, please come down to the front, and I will need you to post that document that I sent over to you earlier, the letter from the Board of Supervisors, please, on the screen. Let me know when you've done that.
All right, Ms. Wynn, I have the letter up there.
Thank you so much. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the board. The Oktibbeha County Board of Supervisors tendered a letter to our board on Friday, June 9th, requesting modifying the development ordinances and regulations within the Cornerstone Park. That is their only request. I'm grateful for the Board of Supervisors' request regarding this request. However, I'm of the belief that modifications regarding landscape and sidewalk ordinances and regulations should be modified to facilitate economic growth for our entire city. I would like to share my knowledge of the current sidewalk and landscape regulations that have impacted negatively regarding business development and the loss of a business. The first one that I would like to share is a small business owner whose facility is actually located over on Academy Road. A couple of months ago, someone wanted to rent space for him for a small barbecue takeout. He, along with that potential person that wanted to lease this building, came to our city to go over those guidelines of what they could do and what they needed to do. He would learn that he would have to create so many more additional parking spaces, create a parking space maybe on the back for this business, and address the landscaping. This businessman was unable to do that. That means a loss of income for him, for that building, and that potential businessman who wanted to create this little small carry-out business. He lost also. That's one story. The second one is one businessman wants to build an office space, his own office space, in the Cornerstone property where he owns approximately 9 acres of land. When I learned about that probably 2 years ago, I tried to assist him with this by asking the board to relax those landscape and sidewalk ordinances to be able to assist him. Presently, nothing is on the property, and he is unable to build that $1.4 million office complex that he would like to build in Cornerstone because those regulations, if he would have to adhere to those are very cost-friendly to him. He has been unable to do that. Presently at Cornerstone, we have one business there, and I think that is the Mississippi Department of Transportation. Nothing else is in that park. That businessman that I spoke of showed me a document where he would have to survey the trees. I didn't understand what surveying the trees were. I learned that he would actually have to count the trees on all 9 acres of that property. The third business I want to share, this one has been very touching to me. It affects one of my very good friends who has worked at this business for 13 years. Takes her about 12 minutes to get home, and she assists her daughter with her 11-year-old grandson because her daughter works for Starkville High and travels with the Lady Jackets basketball team during basketball season. So she is responsible for the care of her grandson after school. The business that she works for is a $4 million business here in our city. They wanted to do an expansion. Due to the regulations that they would have to adhere to, that business found that it would be in the best interest that they locate to another town, which they have done, purchase a building. Therefore, now we've lost a $4 million business, the tax revenue on that, and 50-something odd employees. That neighboring town welcomed them with open arms. They're leaving our city as of next year. They've started that process now. Mr. Clements, if you will, please place those images of those sidewalks up on the screen for me.
Okay, I'm displaying them now.
Okay? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to, just one moment. Okay. Just a moment, Mr. Clements. Okay. Mr. Clements, do you have those images up?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. The first image, am I correct that you see a sidewalk that leads to a tree, Mr. Clements?
That's correct.
Okay. That sidewalk was recently done by a businessman here in our Starkville, probably less than maybe 6 to 8 months ago. This is located off of Vine Street in Ward 7, and he had to put down the sidewalk. If you want to continue on the sidewalk, you would actually go into a tree. But that businessman had to comply with our city's guidelines. Will you go to the next one, Mr. Clemens? The next one, you're going to see the city drain. Go past that, Mr. Clemens, and go where you see Enterprise Rental. Do you see that one?
Okay, I've got it.
Okay. That sidewalk was put down by the developer that developed Village Crossing Center. He shared with me, while he was advised by many developers throughout our state not to come to our city and do business, but he decided that he would. When he discovered all it was that he needed to do, he wanted to turn around and not develop his project, but he was too far in it. That sidewalk right there leads actually to a ditch, and if you come out of the ditch, now stroll back up one more time for me, Mr. Clemens, stroll back up to the city's drain.
Okay, I've got it.
Okay? If you left that sidewalk, you would be across the street, from the ditch into the street into the city's drain. That was done recently. As a matter of fact, that was completed probably about February of this year. Okay? Go to the next one. Do you see that sidewalk that leads to a light pole?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? This sidewalk is one of our neighborhoods. It leads to the light pole. If one were to stop there, they would end up at the light pole. Go to the next one, Mr. Clemens. Here's a sidewalk that's located in Ward 1. Not only does it go to the tree, but one would end up in the manhole here in our city. Okay? Go to the next one, Mr. Clemens.
Okay.
Does it have 1, 2, 3 to the left of it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? This sidewalk is located over there off of 82 in Ward 7. If you were walking on it, just as I took someone the other day who could not believe what I had told her, I actually took this person with me, and we got on it and decided to walk. And her words were, "Oh my God, if you were walking on this sidewalk, you would fall approximately 6 feet onto some asphalt." Okay, the next sidewalk, go to the next one, Mr. Clements.
Okay.
This one leads to a tree. It is over there off of Lafayette Street in Ward 7. This one, a developer had to put it down, and it clearly leads to a tree. I have worked with many of our developers since I became an alderman, especially in the past 3 years. And certainly I want them to see some relief from our city regarding all this. For anyone that knows me, I'm not anti-sidewalk, and let me say that again. I am not anti-sidewalk. My mother spent many years before she passed away in a wheelchair and would have needed the assistance of a sidewalk. But I do want us to be kind and considerate to our developers that want to come here and do business with our city. If you look around at our other cities like Oxford and some other places that are growing by leaps and bounds, we're just not there. If you ask any developer, the first words out of his mouth are the regulations regarding our sidewalks and landscaping. I believe if we tweak those to make those just a little bit more friendlier, I think that our city could start to thrive. Tonight, I'm going to ask that the board support me on a measure, so I put it in there inclusively for our entire city, not just for the Cornerstone Park to maybe give some relief to one person or a couple of people, but we need to be inclusive and give it to everybody in our city. Council, when I finish reading this motion, I have it reduced to writing. Will you pass it down to the mayor for me?
I will.
Okay, Mr. Clemens, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My motion is move that the city's community development amend the city's code of ordinances as it relates to sidewalks and landscape requirements to better facilitate economic development in the city, and that a draft of the revised ordinances be presented to the Board of Aldermen during its meeting on July 18, 2017 for a public hearing.
I'm passing it down.
The motion's
Okay,
been
thank you.
made, it's been read, and reduced to writing. It's been placed with the city clerk. Without objection, I will not ask for it to be reread. Seeing none, do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? Hearing no second, motion dies for lack of a second. The next matter on the agenda is the discussion and consideration of
Mr. Mayor, before she leave that, did she say she had a second motion that pertained to Cornerstone? I think she said this one pertained to the entire city.
Oh, did you have a second motion, Alderman Nguyen?
Yes.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, move approval. My second motion would be move approval to modify landscape and sidewalk measures in the Cornerstone Park and by the Community Development Department and present those to the board on July 18th for a public hearing.
So that was a motion for the Community Development Department to present proposed modifications to sidewalk and landscape regulations related to Cornerstone Industrial Park on July 18th, 2017. Alderman Nguyen, is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Perkins. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, I do not.
Discussion. Alderman Walker.
I think it's a mistake to support this. And first of all, let's point out a finding of fact. There in about 5 or 6 years ago under the previous administration, the Cornerstone Park, the sidewalk ordinance was revised. There is no sidewalks required currently in Cornerstone Park. That was removed from during the last administration as part of the industrial park. I find it hard to believe that an alderperson would bring this up, let alone on behalf of the person that is supposedly out there trying to find people to come and develop in Cornerstone, not to know what the rules are. If you don't know what the rules are, it doesn't give me a lot of confidence that you're out there doing the best job that you can for the city to try to fill that Cornerstone Park. And for the Oktibbeha County supervisors to send us a letter saying that they think we need to remove those regulations when that regulation doesn't exist is a little hard to understand. There are no sidewalks currently required in Cornerstone Park. That is the law that is currently on the books. There is a clear path for the landscape waiver. If the landscape ordinance, what's going to happen out there, and I can't believe it hasn't already happened for OCEDA to get a little bit of money, is clear cut that park so people can actually see what it would be that they're developing. There is a clear path in the landscape ordinance. If something doesn't meet, you can get a waiver, and I think this board has shown time and time again, if something is burdensome on that, we are willing to work with you on that waiver to make it happen. I would love to see Cornerstone Park develop. The reality is they've been unsuccessful to develop it ever since it's been there. And if it wasn't for one thing, it's because they had a lack of power, lack of access. It's one thing after another. Now we're all the way down. You're going to make me build a sidewalk that you're not even required to build. So it seems to me that it's an excuse after excuse after excuse for not being able to fulfill and build that park out. So I think a vote for this Measure 1 is totally unnecessary. 2, it sets bad precedent for moving forward in the city.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Okay. I'm going to read an excerpt from the Board of Supervisors' letter. It says, "It is the supervisor's request that the Board of Aldermen consider modifying the development ordinances and regulations within the park, such as landscaping and sidewalk requirements. Current property owners and prospective buyers have expressed that the cost of complying with the current regulations are too stringent and expensive, which prohibits relocating their businesses to the park. Furthermore, the public needs to see that economic development is progressing in Cornerstone Park. With the modifications of the regulations, current property owners can announce plans to start construction of new facilities within the park, which will reflect to the public that economic development is progressing at that location and will keep the public upbeat about the new industrial park." Those are 2 excerpts from the Board of Supervisors' letter to the Board of Aldermen. I respect my colleagues across the way and will hope that the board will respect them also at their request. I yield the floor.
Mr. City Planner, are sidewalks currently required in the Cornerstone Park?
No, they're not.
They are not. Have you or the Community Development Department been approached by any members looking to develop in Cornerstone Park so you could give them what the true rules and regulations are for development in that parcel?
Members of, like?
The development community, anybody coming in looking to seek to develop in Cornerstone Park?
Other than,
Just an engineering firm and the DPM fragrance factory.
And so were they advised at that time that sidewalks were not a requirement of development in Cornerstone Park?
Yes.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please respond by saying yea, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls nay.
Alderman Carver.
Nay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Nay.
Alderman Walker.
Nay.
Alderman Maynard.
Nay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have 4 noes.
That's 3 in favor, 4 against.
Yes.
By a vote of 3 in favor with 4 against, the motion fails. The next matter before you is the discussion and consideration of the proposed warranty deed from Starkville Country Club Incorporated dedicating a portion of Fairway Drive and Sandwich Drive as a city street. Alderman Little, would you like to introduce?
Yes, I just found out about 1.5 years ago that this property had never been deeded to the city when we were looking to do some work over there on one of the roads. And with the upcoming project over there adjacent to the country club property, we felt this was a good time to move it forward. And with that, I've got the motion to approve the warranty deed from the Starkville Country Club Incorporated to the city of Starkville, Mississippi, accepting the dedication of a portion of Fairway Drive and Sandwich Drive as described in the proposed deed on a finding that public interest, convenience, and necessity requires that the territory be accepted as a public street, contingent, however, on Starkville Country Club, Inc. signing the deed and all improvements being performed by persons and/or entities other than the city, at those persons and/or entities' sole expense, consistent with the design plans which are attached and incorporated herein as Exhibit A, to the satisfaction of the city engineer prior to the city's formal acceptance of the described portions of Fairway Drive and Sandwich Drive. And I've got a condition, right-of-way acceptance contingent on the developer, Starvest LLC, providing improvements to the bridge on Fairway Drive in accordance with the Fairway Drive bridge drawings dated 7/12/16 and consisting of 3 pages, including 2 standard MDOT detail sheets, which are also included as part of the Acadiana subdivision infrastructure plans.
Motion has been made, it's been read and reduced from writing. City attorney has a question.
And Alderman Little, you've attached the design drawings
I
as
have.
Exhibit A.
Yes, sir.
It's been presented to the city clerk. Without objection, I will not ask for it to be reread. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the marriage?
No, sir. Would Mr. Boyle like to speak to anything on that? And your clients, everybody's agreeable to this? Thank you.
Any further discussion? Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just have
Alderman
a
Walker.
question. City engineer, if you don't mind, so the roads that we are going to be deeding, would they meet current city standard, or do we know what we're getting right here in terms of, since it wasn't actually ever deeded over?
As far as city standard, I have not gone out and measured the width of the roadway. It's obviously an old roadway. I'm not exactly sure when it was built. It may have been in the county at the time it was initially built. I'm not sure what the pavement structure is like, or, obviously there's no permit or anything like that. If you were building a new street, city scheme today, but at the time that it was built, I'm not sure where it was located, if it meets the city specs at that time.
Is it currently in a state, is it substandard in terms of its current condition, that we were going to be having to do something that we would have to immediately address?
I haven't ridden the cul-de-sac street in a while, but I don't recall any major structural issues with that pavement. During the development review, the engineers here as well, they have discussed using the access off the courthouse as their primary construction entrance to try to preserve.
There won't be any construction traffic.
Right, across that, so it'll all be coming off-site, and that was, something that we had discussed, and it was a concern, because there is kind of really unknown what these structures like, but, as the applicant has noted, there is some large commercial traffic that is using that roadway already to service the, country club dumpster, as well as a lot of construction for some of the projects that they have.
Okay, thank you. Last question I have is the bridge. We would be accepting a bridge, and they're proposing to build a new bridge. It's my understanding that the existing bridge is in not great shape and has the potential for, will the new bridge allow the flow of water that needs to occur to not create an obstruction that's going to back water up to cause flooding on the north side of that bridge? Do you feel that it is, what is designed is adequate to make sure that we're not creating a future problem that will handle the increasing flow down that drainage channel?
Yeah, so let me make sure I understand your question. The bridge is currently there is an older bridge, it's in timber piling. There is some structural issues with the timber substructure of the bridge. The top deck of the bridge is concrete precast bridge slabs. They are in good condition. I would just say everything below that is probably reached about its useful life. And what is being proposed right now is essentially to build a concrete wall on the inside of the bridge. Actually, it has a concrete cap as well on it. So it has a concrete cap, which basically the slabs sit on. You would be building a concrete wall on either side of a concrete box. So in essence, you're creating a concrete box channel by box culvert. You're not really increasing the size of the culvert. So again, it kind of goes back to when it was originally built. We have, I do think that it will obviously improve the structural capability of the bridge. And right now, it is basically just a natural channel under there. So it is, I guess, maybe a little bit more of a, maybe not as efficient flow through there. But as far as an opening size, it's really hard to determine if it's gonna create any backwater channel effect based on upstream development, because that really hasn't been studied. There's no calculations or studies that have occurred to determine that. So I'm not trying to be evasive.
No, and that's what I want to find out. I just want to find out before we accept the road and this new bridge that we're not creating something that's going to turn around very shortly and be an issue that might increase flooding upstream of that, just to make sure that we're not decreasing the amount of flow that's currently coming through that. If we're doing anything, that we're increasing the amount of flow that comes through there. And in your estimation, are we not decreasing the flow? Are we increasing it or keeping it the same?
I would say it's very comparable to what's.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Any further discussion?
Can I make one comment?
You may.
A couple of things. What really happened was this was annexed into the city several years ago. And I think the ball was kind of dropped on getting these roads dedicated to the city, because the city's actually resurfaced these roads, which they can't do if they're private. So they were resurfaced years back, so the city's been maintaining these. And as far as the bridge goes, right now, when they did the swimming pool for the country club, they brought a 50-ton truck across there, so, that this will actually increase that load capacity, and like you said, the flow, because there's pilings under there now, it kind of creates a swirling effect under the bridge, and the way they're designing this to NDOT standards is gonna stop all of that, so the flow should be at least equal or better.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, please respond by saying yay, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yay.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, the motion passes. The next matter before you is the discussion and consideration of the extension of the billboard moratorium. Alderman Little, would you like to introduce?
Yeah, I've already spoke to that earlier, and I've got a motion here on that. Move that the city notice 2 public hearings, one during the board's regular meeting on July 5th, 2017, and another during the board's recess meeting on July 18th, 2017, for consideration of extending the city's billboard moratorium for an additional 6 months or until the completion of the city's code rewrite process, whichever comes first, and that the city's community development staff, with the assistance of the city attorney if needed, propose language extending the city's billboard moratorium by ordinance for initial consideration and feedback during the July 5th, 2017 public hearing, consistent with the terms of this motion.
Motion has been made, it's been read and reduced to writing. Without objection, I will not ask for it to be reread. Seeing none, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please respond by saying yay, nay, or abstain when the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Carver.
Yay.
Alderman Nguyen.
Abstain.
Alderman Little.
Yay.
Alderman Walker.
Yay.
Alderman Maynard.
Yay.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Yay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Yay.
By a vote of 6 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstention, the motion passes. The next matter on the agenda is a discussion and consideration of 3 candidates for potential appointment for vacancy in Ward 7 Planning and Zoning Commission. Alderman Vaughn.
Mayor, I'm going to have to exit at this time.
All right, let it be noted in the record that Alderman Nguyen left the meeting prior to the discussion of the appointment of Ward 7 Planning and Zoning Commission members. Thank you, Alderman Nguyen.
Thank you, thank you.
Alderman Vaughn.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to select Tommy Verdell Jr. for this position.
Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to appoint Tommy Verdell, is it Tommy Verdell?
Right.
To appoint Tommy Verdell Jr. to fill the vacant position of the Ward 7 Planning and Zoning Commission member. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Oh, can I do that now? Do I have to do it the entire meeting even though? Okay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for approval of claims docket. Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments, including the Starkville Utilities Department, as of June 14, 2017, for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2017, as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 4 in favor with 2 against, and I have Perkins and Vaughn against, the motion passes. The next matter on the agenda is discussion and consideration of adopting the purchase order policy for the City of Starkville. Mr. Ashford?
I'm going to provide an update. Hello, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Aldermen. It was my hope to have a final draft of the purchase order policy for you all today, but myself and Ms. Harding, we didn't get finished with the final draft until this afternoon. So therefore, Mr. Latimer didn't have the proper amount of time to go through and review it before we presented it to you all. And so, as of now, it's in Mr. Latimer's hand. He's going to review it, and the plan is to have it before you on the next board meeting on the 5th of July.
Can we be sure that's included in the packet so we can review it prior to the meeting?
Yes, sir.
Any further questions or comments for Mr. Ashford? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Ashford. That concludes the open session portion of the agenda. You have matters for your potential consideration in executive session.
Going to close session.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to go into closed session to determine whether there is need for an executive session. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. I'll now ask the